Reveille, reveille.
Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
It's us doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah. Hey, we're back, right? Can you feel me? Can you feel what I'm saying right now? No? All right. Hey, it's Monday, February 3rd, 2025.
Don't you go dying on me.
Live and direct from the NYC. It's the M to the K Morning Kombat, the best damn combat sports show they ever friggin' created. Welcome on in. Let us penetrate your face hole, Tooie, because it is time to bang. BC, BBC, that BDE, Brian Campbell right here. That's Luke Thomas from the nation's capital. And Luke, we've got a hell of a fight weekend to break down on this Monday morning.
I gotta say, if I may take command here of this,
like Washington football.
That's right. Take command. Hashtag raise hail. Hey, can we get a hip hop horn and a round of applause for Brian Campbell, everybody? Hey, yeah.
Thank you.
BC, I gotta say, it's no surprise to me when you do well. You know what I mean? It's no surprise to me. But for folks who didn't see it, there was, of course, we're going to talk about it, the Benavidez and Morell PBC pay-per-view over the weekend. You were on the call. Boy, they had you working. Prelims.
Yes.
Main card.
Yes.
Post-fight interviews.
All for the same price.
Yeah.
Not bad. Yeah.
We're going to get that 3-for-1 Brian Campbell deal, the BOGO deal. But I got to tell you, dude, you fucking killed it. It was super smooth the entire time. And I'm just going to say this out loud. First of all, I'm very grateful that PBC gave you this opportunity. I don't know what the future holds.
So am I, yeah.
But I just want to say it's bullshit that you don't have a more consistent gig like this.
Thank you.
Because nobody can listen to how well you did on that broadcast and say that there are people who get jobs in the industry like this because they're more talented. No, the fuck they are not.
Holy shit.
You're just as good, if not better, than any of them, and you did a fucking great job.
Thank
dude.
you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I mean, you're still a fucking licensed fucking shithead.
Yes, I still have CT.
But when it
yes.
came time on Saturday night to do the job, you did the fucking job,
Thank
bro.
you. Back in a drug rug like I belong on Monday morning. But seriously, it's not about me, but thank you everybody for reaching out. Really appreciate it. Highlight moment of my career, no doubt about it, and a great fight card. It wasn't hard to call that. Shout out to Morell, Abner Morris, and the rest of the crew.
You also did great.
Thank you very much. We have a fantastic show for you today, as I mentioned, and a reminder that Morning Kombat brought to you by DraftKings, right? DraftKings, the crown is yours. Thank you very much. A little update, as we may have teased a little bit, this Friday in this studio, Luke, 11 a.m. Eastern, the normal Morning Kombat time. It's going to be you, me, and the man in the damn hat, Chuck Mindenhall, doing what?
Having sex.
How about pregame preview, UFC 312 edition, brought to you by Cuervo.
Yes.
Cannot frickin' wait, okay?
Yes.
Last time we'll do it in the studio, then we'll do it like at a brothel or.
I don't want to make any promises, but we're definitely going to have Chuck here. We're going to do it like we did with when Jed Meshew was here.
Yes.
And listen, I know the 312 card is not the strongest UFC
It's a little
offering.
nubs, to say the least.
I will say this. I think if you dig a little bit, there's some value there.
A lot of Jake Matthews on it, you know?
a lot of guys with the Australian flag in their bio. I'm just going to say it that way. Yeah. Exactly.
Shout out to Mr. Nosita. You can like the show. In fact, if you could like this episode, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. You can follow us on the socials there, including our YouTube channels. And also, please, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm very filled with fluids. Follow as well the third member of our team, the Main Card Minute host, Long Island Luke Nosita. You can only hear him on Mondays, but here he is from the studio. Long Island Luke, how the hell are you?
I'm doing good. Great job this weekend, BC.
Thank you, sir.
Great fight.
Well, I joined your podcast live this weekend and checked it out. I enjoyed that much. So hopefully you had some great streams. Hopefully you were streaming like a prime R. Kelly. You know what I'm saying?
We had to intervene on Luke's stream, let him know he was muted.
They really did.
You know?
They really did. Can I defend myself here publicly?
Yeah, don't hassle the Hoff, please.
So I was like muted on my stream for like fucking almost, not quite, but maybe like close to 10 minutes.
I blame Tukey.
Huh?
I blame Tukey.
No. Tukey's not
Godzilla
involved.
came through before you were there.
She does come stomping through. That is true. Long Island Luke, what am I supposed to do about this? I have a mixing board that is not battery powered. It is plugged into the PC. Nothing was ever disturbed about it. It just conked out in the middle of the broadcast, and I didn't see it until I didn't see the levels moving, and that's when it was. How am I supposed to? You know what I mean? Like everything was, because for example, my camera has shut off at various times because I forgot to plug it in. Nothing was unplugged. What am I supposed to do about that shit, bro?
I mean, there's nothing you can technically do about it except maybe keep an eye on the mixer, see that the lights are on.
Now I have to do that
levels
shit.
are going. The other thing, Luke, is keep an eye on your live chat because everyone was paying money to tell you were freaking muted for 10 minutes.
Do you know how many times I've received DMs in the moment when you're in like a Thursday live chat and people
some crisis.
Could you just please tell Luke this one thing for me, please? You know,
I'm sorry to everyone, but the good news is it was only between the co-main and the main.
Yes.
So it didn't actually fuck up the broadcast that bad, but sorry about that.
No problem at all. Anything else you want to talk about, Luke, before we get into the meat of this show? Maybe the end of the road for Adesanya. I mean, what a weekend we saw. Everything good at home? How's the life doing?
Yeah, pretty good. I took Tukey and the wife to a Lego exhibit.
Ooh, nice.
There was a lawyer turned artist who just makes amazing objects out of Legos. And it sounds kind of silly, like how good could it be?
Yeah.
It's way more impressive than I ever anticipated.
Wow.
They had a life-size recreation of the giant heads from Easter Island. Like the ones the Shamo ones.
Yeah, Poeton said, yeah.
And it was like taller than me. And I was like, I couldn't, and it was brilliantly detailed. A T-Rex skeleton. Like I just couldn't fucking believe how good it was. It's if it comes to it's a touring exhibit. So if it comes to your town, seriously go see it.
Speaking of T-Rex real quick, shout out to Clarissa Shields becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion on Sunday night. And
unbelievable.
3 divisions undisputed. Did you see in the co-main or one of those fights, the 2 heavyweights went through the ring. They were out. They got counted out outside.
I did see. Also that slip counter she used to drop the
big punch late.
And then last but not least, how about Luka Doncic going to the Lakers? I mean, I don't really care that much. I just can't fucking believe Dallas did that.
That was one of the biggest sports stories that wasn't like arrest or death related in a long time, right? You know, like that was
true.
Like, holy crap. All right, that is all that. We're going to get into the meat of this show, though, right friggin' now. And let's go topic number 1. We all saw it Saturday afternoon in Riyadh. It was a UFC Fight Night card, but even bigger, it was the return of Israel Adesanya looking to put the recent past behind him against the rising Nassourdine Imavov. But in the end, a stunning second-round TKO win for Imavov, despite a strong start for Izzy. So, Luke, we got to be blunt. We got to be real. We got to be honest. 4 losses in his last 5 fights, 3 of them by stoppage. Izzy's 35 years old, and all of these defeats, of course, are since 2022. Is it time for one of the greatest champions in this sport's history to walk away from MMA for good?
I think that it is. Yeah. I think that it is.
We're not talking about downgrading your matchmaking. We're not talking about take a year off. We're saying this could be the end right here.
So what I would say to that is a couple of things. You asked a question, is now a good time to close it? Now is a good time to close it. Whether or not he will remain something different, whether or not they agree is something different. Also, could you imagine a scenario where, to the point you just raised, they downgrade the matchmaking, he pulls some kind of Jim Miller-ish scenario? Yes, of course, you don't have to retire in that case. It's not a claim that he can never win fights again. I hope people understand that. But I really want folks to take a look. They note that he's lost 4 of his last 5, and then 3 of those via stoppage, 2 in a row via stoppage. But I really want to focus in on the last 3. He beats Poetan, which was, it appears to be the high water mark of his career.
That's one of the best singular victories in terms of this. What was at stake? He had just been stopped before.
Yep.
But it may have been him pouring out the jug.
I think it was him pouring out the jug. Because then he loses to Strickland. Granted, he was somewhat compromised for it, but it was pretty thorough. But here's the point I want to make. You lose a 5-round decision to Strickland in September of 2023. Then in August of 2024, you get stopped in the 4th round. And then here against Nassourdine Imavov, you get stopped via strikes in the 2nd round. One of the telltale signs that something is headed very much in the wrong direction, to the point where saying out loud, maybe I'm not saying intervention from teammates is needed, but rather a personal sense of what's actually happening, inventorying your circumstances, is when you're an elite fighter, and there is no other way to describe Izzy than an elite fighter, and you're losing consecutive bouts, that's not necessarily a big deal.
Sure.
But if you're 35, you've never lost 3 in a row before, and each time it is getting quicker, and each time it is getting worse, you are headed to a place where you are going to risk not merely losing, but severe beatings that could be in your way.
The diminishing returns become dramatic at
this is where this train is headed.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying the next fight, no matter who it is, he's going to lose and he'll lose in the first round. It's really not that claim. But the claim is you have 3 fights dating back to September of 2023 that all speak to an inexorable decline, and also speak to the direction the subway train is moving. It is moving to a place, and this is what I want to avoid, BC. It is moving to a place where he is going to risk getting absolutely walloped in the process, affecting his quality of life, affecting, less to his legacy, but really personal damage to himself that is absolutely unnecessary, especially since he's now, at this point, no longer really in relevant conversations about getting back to a title place to meaningfully add to the legacy.
And it's crazy because if he would have won this fight, you could have literally put him back in there against Poatan at light heavyweight for the title, and now we have the exact opposite conversation, and it is because of those 3 fights you mentioned. It was lifeless against Strickland. Maybe we wrote that off as how does he get up for that fight after he got up for the Poatan one, but to see the last 2 fights, DDP and this one, where he looks really good, he looks like the guy of old, and then when it's over, Luke, it's over like that. Remember, DDP was like that. It went from, he's on the ground, he's tapped out. Same thing here, one big shot. I think what makes this even worse is this was the training camp that I got the feeling from following his pre-fight stuff that there was no stone left unturned. Mm-hmm. They went back to the basics, got off social media, like that kind of stuff, like completely sequestered himself and went all in. He came in incredible shape. You saw some variety to his striking and switching stances that you're like, okay, they're trying, when you go to that level and then seemingly the first time you take a big strike, which he did, fight was over. That's a huge sign. But I do want to say he was poked in the eye about 10 seconds before the stoppage. And he made the decision, which in hindsight seems to be a bad one, to not take time. He wanted to do the warrior thing and go, no, I'm fine. Let's keep fighting. Kind of like what Poatan did to Jamal Hill. And then he finished him. Only it was Izzy that got finished right after. Does that play a role in this at all? Or obviously the totality of the run Izzy's on, we have to have these tough conversations right now. But do you think that right hand that landed had something to do with compromised vision off of coming back too quick from an eye poke?
All of these things have some kind of role to play. I'm less convinced that it explains exactly what happened. And also, if you're in the middle of a fight and there is some video of Izzy saying he didn't want to let the guy take the break because he didn't want him to catch his wind. Fair enough. He wants to keep a high pace. And you saw that from the first round. He was coming out aggressive, which I thought was a good idea. If you stuck to that strategy and you elected to make that call in the middle of the fight, then you accept the consequences of it. Sure. So in a sense, I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but it's not the defining factor of how you understand this contest. Not to me. To me, this is a guy, BC, who, again, more than 100 pro fights, tons of damage already. He's slowing down all natural things that happen at this stage of a career. But more to the point, we should actually have a bit of a moment to reflect on the kind of striking that he has. In later subsequent fights in his career, the Cannonier, the second Whitaker, the Vettori fight, a lot of his striking, again, early on, this is not the case. Mm-hmm. But in the latter portion of his championship run, he had the kind of striking to essentially diffuse bombs and manage rounds, less to get over on a guy.
Good point.
And as the fighters get younger, as he gets older, and they get better because they have better best practices and they understand things that the previous generation did not, you can't get by being older and managing rounds and then diffusing bombs. You actually have to lay bombs on these other guys, and that, of course, declines as you get older. Again, these are all natural things. It's not an insult, but
he didn't evolve to a certain degree.
He is the evolution.
His takedown defense was nasty in this fight.
This is what everyone gets wrong about Izzy. Izzy is the evolution. Izzy helped raise the level of striking, not merely in that division, but overall in the sport. But that's the problem. You made again, so I'm not saying you made everyone better in that, like, went one by one, but the sport got better by virtue of him and his team's participation in the way in which they focused on certain elements of striking that were heretofore not really all that incorporated. So the point I'm trying to make is, if everyone is now getting younger and they already know all of your trade secrets, and again, there's already a shit ton of tape on the guy, and the best you can hope for is managing and diffusing, these are not circumstances that are going to lead to consciousness through 25 minutes.
And when you're seeing, like we said, these two big fights end as soon as he's in trouble, it's over. That's a huge sign. I didn't have any problem with the stoppage. I mean, he got lit up by those
I would like to ask Long Island Luke about that. Long Island Luke, here's my read on that stoppage. a little early, but I don't have a problem with it.
I told BC when I first saw it in real time, I was kind of complaining. I thought it was early, but on replay, he was definitely out with those first 2 shots. It's just the timing in which they chose to stop it after that seemed a little weird.
Well, but that left hand when he was down, that's enough. That's enough.
So when he hit him with the right, that was bad.
Yep.
The left one was really bad because then he bellies out. He goes like that. And then you could see him trying to get to his base a little bit, and then he's getting bombed on, and that's when Goddard stopped it. But then as soon as Goddard stopped it, he like had his knees under him, you know? It was a bit of a weird thing, but I mean, this is MMA. What do you want me to say?
It is. So look, it was a shocking result. It was shocking to see that. I happened to be driving to T-Mobile Arena, sitting behind Morrow and Brian Custer, who were watching on a feed that was 10 seconds ahead of mine. So I heard the reaction, and then I looked down on the phone and kind of waited for it to happen. It brought a lot of reaction. In fact, it fueled YouTube content for Izzy. I'm surprised he did this, but he sat down and rewatched it shortly afterwards, and here's the result of his reaction.
Adesanya chopping the legs early in round 2.
You okay?
Because he already just rested from the thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Fair game. Fair game. Fuck.
I mean, that's all of our
Niggas doing the
reaction.
fucking stripper splits.
I do give Izzy credit for doing that, but there's not much more. There's not much else you can say right now. I mean, it is what it is of late, and that's his reaction. Fuck, like all that. But did you see Mighty Mouse? Mighty Mouse seemed to take this harder than everyone.
I did not see this.
Let's watch this reaction.
Round 2. Everybody kick.
Oh! No! Fuck! Get up, Izzy! Get up, nigga! Fuck! Fuck! God damn it!
Did he have money on Izzy? Or did he just love the guy?
Fuck! God damn it! Fuck! God damn it, man! Oh.
Did he drink wine?
If he's smart,
Massive respect for Izzy, man. To go over there and shake the hands, man. Shake the hand of the man who just knocked him out. Fuck, man. Now I got a fucking headache. Oh,
Luke,
I mean, I just think
I don't think you did the the Poirier reaction. Were you live when this
I was
happened?
live. I had a very muted reaction.
Being honest here, as a fan, and you respect Izzy, and you've been a champion of what he's accomplished. It was hard to watch.
Yes, but yes and no. Like, again, I know there's that meme where I'm like, I'm not playing with the toys anymore. But it's like, dude, when we talked on Friday, the best I could say was I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yes.
And then when you see what actually happens, it confirmed some of the more worrying suspicions that I had, which was he has reached the inexorable decline stage of his elite career. And the reality is, dude, if you're this kind of a fighter and you're in this kind of a stage, the best thing to do is, from what I've seen over the course of time, it's just to stop the bleeding. And
And even if that means 18 months from now you get the itch again,
yeah,
that's fine. But it is sometimes you just got to stop the
maybe he comes
train.
back in the year and they have a fun 205 fight.
Yeah.
Fine, whatever. But I just want to point out, like, having watched Habib, having watched GSP cut out before this part happens, there's no way to stop this other than to just call the whole thing off.
Yeah.
Because this is where we are now. We are in the stage where harm is going to be done to him routinely. I don't have great appetite for this. I don't.
Well,
we got to see the very best of him.
Yes.
We are no longer there. In fact, we're pretty far from it. What is the attachment at this point?
Yeah.
Let him
don't do BKFC.
take care of his health.
Okay,
don't do BKFC. But like, let him take care of his fucking health. Like,
I mean, if he was free, he'd probably box Jake Paul next.
Let me
but
just
that's
say
not
this
gonna
too.
happen.
Let me ask you this, BC, because I know we have been, closer to fan experiences in our life than we are these days. But I got to tell you, like, when I see fans hold on to a guy and they're just getting beat and then beat and then beat and like, oh, this really depresses me. I've lived that, so I completely understand it. But I'm definitely now in a place where that's not the case anymore. I'm now in a place where I'm like, I like it. I like it when they call it off early. I
Yeah.
like it when they get out early. It actually makes me feel much better. And who pines to see legends get whooped? Who pines
GFL,
for that?
GFL does. Okay, to be fair, you did mention GSP. He also GSP was in the crowd, and even though it was a Frenchman, the adopted Frenchman, and Imavov getting the win, here's GSP's reaction. You can see it, Luke, on his face. It's hard, I mean, we have so much respect for Izzy. You saw DJ's
Why is
respect.
he dressed like a blackjack dealer in 1973?
Yeah, he looks like Leisure Shoot Larry right there. I love that shit.
I mean, no one has put their collar outside of their jacket, honestly, since 1994.
That clip goes on, and it's just a sad face from GSP. All right, we've said a lot about Izzy. 22 minutes into the show. How about we talk about Nassourdine Imavov? 4 consecutive wins in the middleweight division, all against good names, including Dolidze, Brendan Allen, and now stoppages of Jared Cannonier and former champion Adesanya. Luke, how big of a win? Because if you would have told me in advance, Izzy's going to lose and it might be the end of his career, I'm not thinking second-round TKO off of a 2-punch clean combination. This was shockingly big for a guy that doesn't talk trash, speaks a different language, doesn't have a high profile, but Imavov can fight. How big of a win is this?
I think we have to be a little bit careful about assigning huge value to it. It's definitely very good. It is definitely extremely helpful in terms of what it does for his stock, standing, all-time place. As we indicated, the run he's on more recently with these 4 wins in a row, and they're getting faster and faster. By the way, to speak of that, we just talked about how in the case of Izzy's Izzy's losses, they're happening quicker and quicker. How about this, BC? He decisions Roman Dolidze, Imavov does. He TKOs Jared Cannonier in the 4th. He goes to a 3-round decision with Brendan Allen, and now 2. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It gets faster and faster and faster for him as he ascends the ladder. This is exactly what somebody at 28 years old who is now entering their physical prime, if they're going to be elite and they want to contend for a title, it has to look like this. So on that sense, and then on that level, I absolutely give him an enormous amount of credit. He's legit. He's at worst number 4 in this division, as far as I can tell, right? Because it's going to be DDP, Sean, Hamzat, and him. Those are the guys now. It's those 4.
DDP and Sean are going to fight for a second time on Saturday.
Yeah.
Dana already said Chimaev's got next, more or less. I think he said it publicly. So would Imavov need another big win over a top 5 contender?
I absolutely think he needs another top win over another top guy. And the reason why I say that is because twofold. One, I don't think the loss is fluky. I don't think that. But this is not Izzy from 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so he is going to get caught a lot more easily than he once did. And the second thing I'm going to say is he lost the first round, Imavov did. That's not like some scathing indictment, but Izzy did look pretty good. And for a moment there, Imavov looked slightly bewildered. What I would like to see is a fight against one more top guy. And again, if it ends up in 30 seconds, what can you do? But I would argue engineer matchmaking so that you can maybe trust that whoever Imavov fights will push him, give you a decent chance anyway, of pushing him into later rounds so you can really see what it looks like when he has to problem solve over the course of time. That's what I would hope to see. Is that Robert Whittaker? Could he get back out in time? I don't know.
That's an interesting offering.
A
right
name
there.
that people brought up as well, and I would love to get Bong and Luke on this one. What do you think about Nassourdine Imavov taking on Caio Borralho?
I like that, but that's also like 2 surging prospects. I almost feel like they should have done
Contenders, not
that.
prospects.
Sorry, I feel like they should have done that instead of this Izzy fight right now.
Well, Imavov's currently number 5. I don't know if these UFC rankings
They're
have
not
been
updated
updated.
yet.
Okay.
Mhm.
Whittaker at 4.
Yeah.
I
But,
do like the
remember,
Whittaker
his whole
fight.
jaw got fucked up.
Caio is 6. Vittoria at 7, and then you go Cannonier and Allen, Cannonier,
forget
Allen, and Dolidze, who he's already beaten, and then Paulo Costa and Fluffy Hernandez. You wouldn't do Bo Nickel. No, he's well beyond this.
Whittaker or Caio Borralho?
I think
to me,
those
make the most sense.
Fluffy's fighting Brendan Allen, I think, like next month.
Yes, if he wins, he's a dark horse
Yeah,
guy,
I like
yeah.
that. I like that.
That's it. That's a good point. That would be a good matchup if he wins two streaking guys right
But
there.
somebody like that, Whittaker, you would imagine could probably, a little bit older, but can probably push him. Borralho, you definitely would imagine can push him, and certainly I would also argue Fluffy can push him as well. That's what we need to see. But if he answers that, you got to give him a title shot. I mean, that's just simply where he is at this place. So again, 28 years old. That's when the prime starts. And that's what he did on Saturday. Pretty
It
impressive.
was weird because even though Izzy was knocked out, he was kind of right back up afterwards, and it looked like, oh crap, it happened and it's over. It wasn't like he was, laid out for a long time and we were worried about him, but it happens that quickly in the sport, man.
May I make a point? May I make a point if I can? I had tweeted over the weekend that Izzy is inarguably the second best middleweight of all time. And there's definitely a few reasons why you can say that, but I would actually like to read a list of fighters. And BC, I would love for you to tell me what they all have in common. Okay? I'm only going to read to you 15 names.
Let me guess, Flat Earth?
It'd be a lot more than 15.
Okay.
All right. Tito Ortiz, John Jones, Daniel Cormier, Izzy, Anderson Silva, GSP, Kamaru Usman, Habib, Jose Aldo, Volk, Dominic Cruz, DJ, and then on the women's side, Rousey, Nunes, and Shevchenko. Is there any way to figure out? I mean, they're all UFC champions, of course, but beyond that, what do they have in common? Because what the list I just read you, they're the only 15 in UFC history who have this.
I was going to say win streak, but that doesn't fit that perfectly. Certain level of title defenses?
No, although there probably will be some correlation. It's not the one that I'm making.
Okay.
The answer is these are the only fighters whose championship reign lasted 1,000 days or more. It's the only ones. And there's only really 3 of them who went over 2,000. It was, 4 of them that went over 2,000. DJ, Aldo, but if you have to count his second reign, so you can skip that one. But DJ, GSP, and Anderson Silva, they're the only ones who went over 2. Now you might be asking who is left off of that list. Great question. The answer is this. Consider some of these names who are around the 900 mark. Max Holloway, Tyron Woodley, Pat Miletich. Matt Hughes is over 1,000 if you count both of his reigns, but he doesn't have a single one that's 1,000.
John Jones is probably over 3,000 if you count
John Jones is over 2 if you count both title reigns, but he's not over 3. And then Joanna Jędrzejczyk is only at 900. Understand the level of what we are talking about here. Izzy is in that club. I had people trying to suggest on the timeline that Chris Weidman deserves a shot as number 2. That is only true if you've been hit in the head with a fucking hammer.
Okay, but it's not that. See, we did during the pandemic at CBS Sports, we did a division by division all-time ranking. And I remember at that point, we had Weidman number 2, and it was a little surprising for me. But when you went over the history, and this absolute peak, that stretch of wins are very impressive. And very few have
he's a very good champion.
So would you put him at 3?
I'd probably put him at 3.
All
yeah.
right.
I mean, it wouldn't be Manet, it wouldn't be Bustamante, it wouldn't be Rockhold. It would probably be Weidman. He'd be at 3. But to me, it's something of a distant 3. And the reason why is it's not every title defense that Izzy has is beyond reproach. The Yoel Romero one was not super authoritative. But 2 things I would say. One, here's his 3 title defenses for Chris Weidman. Anderson Silva breaking his leg. That's not his fault, but it just doesn't mean much. That's the first thing I'd say. Second of all, it was the Lyoto Machida win. That's a pretty good one.
Damn good win.
That was, but that's also Machida who got washed out of 205, cut weight to 185, and only got it off of 2 wins.
True, but
no, it's a good win. It's a good win. Of all the wins he's got, that's in his title defenses, that's the best one. And then Vitor Belfort, fresh off of TRT, looking like he had been a deflated balloon.
Yes,
he had absolutely nothing. This is better than 5 consecutive title defenses, which, by the way, no other middleweight even has 4, and he's got, besides Silva, and he's got 5. People want you to imagine that you can, like, magic eye, and then you can squint, and you can see a case for Weidman. You cannot. You cannot. There has been pervasive denial about how good Izzy has been since he got to the UFC and what he's done since he's been here. He's the second best middleweight of all time. It's not up for debate. I am sorry to be the one to tell you that, but it is in fact true.
All right, all you haters out there, Luke has spoken. Take that, bitches.
I mean, he's in the most elite clubs that exist for title dominance.
Do you think if Izzy doesn't fight again in the UFC, I mean, it's always going to be hard if you still have fights under contract. Look at GSP, couldn't even get out of his deal, in the recent years of trying some type of idea. Do we ever see him again in combat in any form?
My hunch is that Izzy's not going to retire off of this.
Sure.
But I do think he realizes now that the end is probably much closer than he expected, and he's probably trying to manage whatever time he has left. I think he'll fight again.
I hope if they go to a UFC Africa card at some point, he's on that card.
Yeah, I mean, people say UFC Africa. That's a continent. I mean, we're like...
No, I'm well aware of that, yeah.
I know, but like, I mean, they're all like radically different parts, like...
Yeah, there's more than one country in Africa. Yeah,
I know, but it's like, oh, we're gonna go. Like, we have a guy from Croatia. Oh, we're gonna do UFC Europe in Portugal. It's like, okay,
It's
well, that
still
doesn't...
the unconquered territory. in
Yeah,
general.
it would be. It certainly would. Listen, it would be great to have them there. I'm simply saying you have to be a little more focused
Let's
than
bring
that.
Francis back for it too. Right?
Big Francis? They're not. I mean, dude, they will sooner hold an event on Mars before they fucking have him back. But in any case, I do think he'll fight again. I just don't know what that's all going to look like, and I hope for the best.
Me too. Me too. It was tough to see that, but big win for Imavov. We'll see where he goes next. Let's go to topic number 2, and it's your UFC Riyadh undercard. In particular, that co-main event, it was Michael Venom Page moving up from welterweight for what he called a one-off, although it seems like that story might have changed after he scores a fairly wide unanimous decision over red-hot Shara Bullet Magomedov. 230 to 27s, one judge giving Shara Bullet the third round. So, Luke, Shara Bullet's performance, does it say more about this being a tough style matchup for him? Are the realities of his now disclosed medical conditions more of the reason? But either way, how much did this victory from MVP deflate, if not outright pop, the hype of Shara Bullet coming into this matchup?
I mean, I went into the Petrosian fight telling everybody on this show, and you remember me saying this, that I was not sold on him.
Sure.
And then against Petrosian, he turns in like one of the most amazing, sensational KOs. Certainly in that division's history, but really in MMA, like the double spinning back fist, that's crazy, right? That's amazing. He's obviously quite good. I am, as always, willing to believe that the illness he is describing is not manufactured and absolutely played.
We have the IG post if we can
Okay,
go
let's
read
see
that
what he
right
has
now.
to say
Hold
about
on,
it.
Luke. He says the pirate goes to the harbor.
Okay, the pirate gimmick? Arr, mateys, there be gold in them hills.
But I'll be back. I knew all the risks coming out in such a nightmare state of health, and with such preparation, I felt that with all this, I could win. But it didn't work out, that's all. Thanks to the organization for such a chance, and everyone involved that wanted to wrap up the spectacle and justify the expectations without breaking up the fight. Salute to everyone who was with me, blah, blah, blah. So, Luke, I mean, here's the deal. It's always going to be a poor style matchup for a guy who's a power striker, but doesn't have a ton of craft and technique. He's not a reckless brawler, but we had questions coming in. What medical condition could it be talked about? I kind of need to know more on that. Is it the one eye thing?
Do you remember belonging on Luke? It sounded to me something like digestive or some kind of organ-related issue.
I'm not sure. I joked to BC earlier. Was it the eye? I don't actually know.
Because he said he was worried about throwing up as a consequence. So it had to be some kind of...
I mean, I did see, even though one judge gave him round 3, and even though round 3 was the most he sort of pressed because his corner, it just didn't, he didn't have that upper room level of urgency to turn on. He didn't,
Well, this is what I
he
mean.
didn't have that higher gear to really, either that or it was just, it's hard to throw when you've got a guy that's that quick, that unorthodox, that elusive, who can dive in. I mean, MVP hit him with some creative strikes that Shara was like, I haven't seen shit like this before.
I just feel like the story is less about Bullet, to be honest with you. I think he probably was ill. It probably made a role. I think that we'll get to the MVP side because I actually think that's the much more interesting side of this conversation. But as it relates to Shara Bullet, this is one point I've made previously with guys, and I'm going to make it again here. It's okay to have lopsided skills in the UFC, but if you're going to do that, then the part that is lopsided has to be lights out.
Yeah.
If you're going to have Habib level striking, you better have Habib level wrestling. Conversely, if you're going to have, Anderson Silva level striking, right? You have to have something going on in the wrestling game, or excuse me, you don't, but like you obviously have to be Anderson Silva level good on the striking. And he is good striking, but he's not. He, I think, benefits from a certain kind of style more than others, and there is no B game. He has no ability to shoot for takedowns, get on top, and then find another way to win. I have to tell you, there's nothing about what I see in him that portends championship futures.
I would agree with you, and that's why I think that was the lead-off topic because of the hype that was around him and the idea that he wasn't close to a finished product. But do you think this loss, separate from whatever realities of health conditions he mentioned, and I give him respect that that's true, fighters deal with a lot of stuff to get themselves into the cage. Is this more about his inabilities, or is this about Michael Venom Page moving up in weight in his late 30s and putting forth a pretty damn good performance?
I really think this is the MVP is the story here. MVP, I've seen it so many times where guys come from another organization and they are the sum total of whatever that person's sense of that organization's reputation is. Oh, Bellator is the B League. This can only be a B League guy. And then no one is necessarily saying he's going to go win a title. I think he was ranked 14th or 15th at 170. He'll be ranked around that mark here for this win. But, he came into the UFC, fought Kevin Holland, looked better than him, fought Ian Gary.
Turned him into a wrestler, dude.
I thought he beat Ian Gary. It's debatable. It was close, but I thought he won. And then here he is. He just had Bullet flummoxed. The reality is, one, MVP was suffering from a sense about Bellator's upside and what they could reasonably confer in terms of matriculating talent. People just assume because he was Bellator, he just can't be that good. And it turns out at 37, up at 185, his game is still crafty. He is still hard to deal with. He has really found a way to make that game work, even at this late stage of his career. And Shara Bullet may have been sick, absolutely. But he also just had no answers, no inkling of a direction to go other than the leg kicks, but it didn't really do enough in the end. And it looked to me like MVP had a lot figured out, and that was really the difference between them.
Well, here's the crazy part. Coming in, MVP had explicitly said this is a one-off. It was a good opportunity for him. He took it. You know what he's saying now, Luke? I want to get your take on this. He's now saying, I think I can go up one division higher to light heavyweight, and he welcomes a fight with Yuri Prochazka. So before you say, holy shit, that's a crazy idea, he's in his late 30s, he's a welterweight, his speed advantages in terms of reaction time, quickness, all the unorthodoxy stuff he does, that looks even more dramatic than the higher he moves up in weight. Obviously, there's the questions about the physicality. Can he take the punching power? Would you sign up for an MVP Yuri Prochazka shootout at 205? I mean, what is he saying? This is wild.
Sure. He's making the most out of taking on people that the fans like Kevin Holland. Ian Gary's less a fan favorite, but that's an important fight that needed to be had. And now you took on Shara Bullet to great effect. Yuri also a fan favorite. Oh, Jesus, turn my thing up real loud. Yuri also a fan favorite. God damn this fucking thing. Sorry, here we go. Yuri also a fan favorite. So to me, it's like, dude, he's not going to win a title. Again, is he going to beat Anthony Hernandez? I just don't see something like that likely. But if you can find ways to stay relevant, big cards, big names.
Remember the run Kung Lee went on across Strikeforce in UFC? When Kung Lee just made fun fights against other big names, and it was never really about him being in title contention too much anywhere. I'd like to see that from MVP. So I kind of support this if he feels like he can pull it off. Do you think he would give Yuri troubles trying to chase him and trying to catch up with the movement?
Yuri's a little less hittable than he once was. He's something he's working on, but he has been hittable. I think it could, again, he's durable though. I think that'd be a problem for MVP. Obviously, he's going to be much bigger than him naturally.
I mean, this ain't Douglas Lima across from you if you take a Yuri Prochazka shot at 205, but that is interesting. The other storyline surrounding MVP was no flag on his graphic on the walk to the cage.
Yes.
Which wasn't about any, Ukraine-Russia war like we've sometimes seen in the past. Here's MVP talking about that after the fight.
You were the only fighter today on the entire card that did not have a little flag next to your name when you were coming out on the screen. Why?
I feel like everyone's always trying to find their group, and it all it does for me is it builds more separation. We're one race, human race, and I live by that. Though I don't care where you come from, what job you do. You could be a king, you could be a pauper. I will show you the same respect. I don't care where. It's for me just constant labels that are attached to people. I just don't like.
Luke, we heard a lot of labels from Conor McGregor and Bryce Mitchell recently. This is actually kind of refreshing. What'd you think about this?
I mean, I don't know what to make of anything in MMA anymore, but it was nice to hear that he didn't think Hitler was a good guy to go fishing with pre-meth.
Okay, there we go. There we go with that.
Pre-meth, that's the demarcation line, pre-meth.
Luke, the other big-ish, at least on paper, fight on this card came in the heavyweight division as Sergey Pavlovich took on Jair Rosenstrike. And despite Long Island Luke trying to talk us into plus money on Rosenstrike ahead of time.
Fucking dumbass.
Wow, that was
dude, that fight sucked. Also, I did cash Pavlovich to get a takedown plus 700.
Oh, shit.
Well,
Shout
this
out
fight blew hard.
Yeah,
hard enough
sucked.
for Tom Aspinall to hit the IG LIL, if we could see that.
Yeah, he's right.
These heavyweight fights lately absolutely stink. Let's get some excitement and stop holding it up. Maybe that's him also saying, hey, UFC and John Jones, can we sign this big-ass fight? Luke, what do we say here? Because the argument I had on why Rosenstruck was not going to win this fight was that we know it's a steep decline after the elite heavyweights. Let's be honest here. Who are the elite heavyweights? John Jones, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades?
He's elite adjacent, certainly.
Alexander Volkov?
Same.
Am I missing anyone else? Oh,
Cyril Gane.
Still gone. I mean,
Surreal Gain. Sorry, Surreal Gain.
Serial game.
Surreal Gain. Okay, so that's 5. Sergey Pavlovich is either the worst of that, or I should say that about Volkov, but it's true here. Either the worst of that or the best of that next level of crap.
This fight was terrible.
What is this? Is this about these two fighters, or is this about the division at large at the moment?
A little of both. Dude, this fight sucked so much ass. It's unbelievable. I mean, Sergey can't... Okay, Sergey had trouble finding openings. He had some. He was fading off to that right hand. That was nice. But Biggie Boy was just waiting around because he couldn't create any openings. He was just waiting for Sergey to go, so there was just a lot of inactivity. They had single-digit strikes landed, I think, in multiple rounds. And then he had to go for takedowns or, falling on top of a guy who fell over. And he couldn't pass and couldn't get any ground and pound going on a guy who was merely holding on to half guard for dear life. This was fucking miserable ass fight. This division is cooked. It's so fucking terrible. I think Sergey is better than what he showed. I do believe that. But it seemed to me, in fairness to him, if we can say that, he was just looking for what you like to call survive in advance, right?
Yes.
The tournaments kind of thing. He was just looking, I think, to get right. And he did. That's not nothing, and it could be very valuable for him down the road. But this fight was butt cheeks. Wow.
Big butt cheeks. Oh, wow.
Big old butt cheeks.
I got to shout out, although they continue to put her as deep on the undercard as they possibly can, Jasmine Jasdavicius at 125 takes on former title challenger at bantamweight Mayra Bueno Silva, who moved back down to 125. And even though it's a third straight defeat for Silva, and it's certainly a damning turn of events for somebody that we thought, or at least I thought, was going to easily beat Rocky Pennington for that title, look, this is 4 straight wins for Jasmine at 125. She has turned it around. She's added the striking to her takedown game. Like, she seems to be putting it together. How impressed are you?
Pretty impressed. I mean, there's competition. I think, women's MMA right now is really not super.
But this division is the best by far of women's MMA.
Yes, and I think Jasdavicius is really, she seems to be headed towards a peak or peaking. She really has turned a corner and stays ready, stays active, gets after it. She's not without faults, but she's with lots of pluses.
Well, she's 35, so it's good time to get to it right now.
I think the women tend to age a little bit later, so I don't think that's as much of a...
They're like male heavyweights.
Kinda. So this is the time for her to really step on the gas, and she is. And so I think for those reasons, it's good to see what she's doing.
That moved me. Anything else move you on this undercard? Long Island Luke was talking about Said Nurmagomedov's spinny shit that he was spamming.
That fight was also not great from what I could see of it. Fares Ziam beating Mike Davis. Mike Davis.
Wait. That was fight of the night, Said Nurmagomedov, Vinicius Oliveira.
I missed a round. I missed the last round. But it was fight of the night because they just award donkery. They were just donking.
I do think Fares Ziam, Mike Davis should have been fight of the night, but both of those fights were great.
Oliveira, Nurmagomedov, your mileage may vary. The Ziam Davis fight was interesting. The only thing that was weird was Davis, 10 seconds into the fight, just pulls guard. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I think he was hurt. There was something weird about that.
I thought so too. It just didn't make sense. However, I will say this. People are like, oh, well, you're saying Ziam didn't look good. No. Ziam looked really good. Some of his striking, very accurate, great timing, great shot selection. I think Ziam is awesome. It was just strange from Mike Davis. On the prelim card, BC, Gaziev. Terrence McKinney looked pretty good.
He was the 4th straight fight. McKinney either finished someone in the first round or was finished in the first round.
Yeah, he second round? No. Not doing it. First round, win or lose. I kind of like that approach.
But that was a pretty damn nubs card for the most part. It'll only get worse at 312 this Saturday outside of the top 2 fights.
I keep saying this. I don't think 312 is in any way worse. I just don't agree with that.
Long Island Luke, can you put this man to the test,
Luke,
please?
You need to really dissect both of these cards.
I mean, come on.
Saudi is so much better on paper. I'm not saying 312 is going to be bad. The 2 title fights are fantastic. There's no denying that.
Get your head
the rest
together.
of the card
Justin Tafa versus Taliesin Teixeira is not my favorite.
Take the tour of Tafa.
Jimmy Crute versus Bellato is going to be madness for as long as that lasts. Jake Matthews Prado is interesting-ish.
That's not interesting.
Jack Jenkins on the prelim card is interesting. Wang Tong on the prelim card is
she's got to bounce back, yeah.
Alexander Topuria on the prelim card is interesting. Also, you add in a few more of these guys.
I think it's 2 fights in Topuria.
Cody Steele on the early prelims, a huge BJJ phenom, finally getting some run in the UFC. That is a big-ass fight. No, you're just wrong. Saudi was not a better card.
Long
Absolutely
Island,
not.
can you put a poll in the
I
racist
will.
chat,
I
please,
will.
to get the people
I
to give
definitely
us
will.
the.
Because what they're going to do is they're going to vote on vibes. They don't feel like it's. Listen,
Hey, Vibes won me a Dead concert last year.
it's so true. It's so true. But the point I want to make is people are going to say, relative to what they expect from pay-per-view, this is a letdown, which they're right. It is. But all I'm saying is card for card, Saudi versus this one, no, the Saudi card's not better. Sorry, you're wrong.
BKFC, by the way, had a card in Connecticut over the weekend. Not only did Brennan Ward, former Bellator star, win his debut.
Waterbury, Connecticut.
New London, Connecticut.
New London, I'm sorry, you're right.
How about Connecticut's own Parker Porter winning in
He's
the
from
BKFC
Connecticut?
debut? Yeah, man, yeah.
He's a big man.
Yeah, also, Let Me Bang Bro won in the main event. Julian Lane.
He's still fighting?
Yeah, he's a main eventer for Bellator, right?
Wow. No, for BKFC.
For BKFC, I'm sorry. Yeah, there you go. Luke, have you ever heard of Goldbelly by any chance?
I have heard of Goldbelly.
Well,
yes.
I'm hoping our listeners wake up to this because it's the amazing site that I have now gotten a hold of and want to order from all the time. You want to know why, Luke? Because you can get the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants all across the U.S., only they will ship it to you for free to your door anywhere in the country. Luke, you know what I got shipped to me?
What did you get?
Guy Fieri's famous trash can nachos. And when it arrived, both of my sons, who, by the way, turned 17 yesterday, shout out to my twins, Chris and Isaac, and they were like, oh, Dad, did you know about these trash can nachos? I'm like, I heard of them. They're like, cook them now. This is all. Let them cook. We had a hell of a feast right there.
Okay, it's funny you mentioned that. So I actually got something from Buffalo, New York, Anchor Bar. Anchor Bar, famous for many things, including but not limited to buffalo wings.
Oh, yeah, baby.
They came in the mail, and I was like, how good can it be? You know, I don't know about this.
Bill's Mafia, baby.
And then we heated them up, and they were sensational. The blue cheese that they had as well was freaking awesome. It was a home run with the wings.
My trash can nachos had barbecue chicken, but you can get pork, you can get beef. There's a lot of options on there. You can get Philly cheesesteaks from Jim's or Pat's. I mean, you can get the wings, Kansas City's most legendary barbecue. The options are endless. It also extends to pizza. Luke, if you're looking to get some of that, the kind of food you can typically only get on vacation, but delivered for free to your doorstep and have it taste as delicious as you thought it could be, Goldbelly could be for you.
Goldbelly is it. So, guys, here's what you're going to do. If you're looking to host an epic Super Bowl party, right, or any party for that matter, doesn't have to be Super Bowl, go to goldbelly.com and get free shipping and 20% off your first order with promo code COMBAT. That's COMBAT with a K. Goldbelly.com, code COMBAT for free shipping and 20% off your first
and they
order.
pack that beautifully. It comes cold,
this
ready.
Is true. The producers will tell you I get notifications in my email when either FedEx or UPS ships me something, and I didn't know it was coming because I didn't know when it was going to arrive. And then I get a notification. The delivery that they sent me, this is how many wings they sent me. It was 9 pounds. 9 pounds. And they threw in some blue cheese. They threw in some buffalo sauce as well.
All the fixins come. Perfect.
It was a huge bag. Guys, you can't go wrong. Goldbelly.com. Use the code COMBAT with a K.
And by the way, it's Super Bowl Sunday this weekend, so not a bad time to get on board. Goldbelly.com/combat with a K. Get 20% off your first order. Thank you very much. All right, it's time to get over to topic number 3 on today's show. I was there. I was on the call this weekend. It went down Saturday. T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, PBC on Prime pay-per-view, and an undefeated light heavyweight summit to produce, in theory, the next challenger for the undisputed championship that will be rematched February 22nd when Beterbiev and Bivol face off. But this was about the two Davids, Benavidez and Morell. And Luke, after a red-hot build to this fight, so much bad blood between them, so much good stuff going on, they put on a mini classic. Some people are talking about multiple Fight of the Year contenders coming off this card on Saturday. But after what we saw from Benavidez, scoring a unanimous decision over 12 rounds, what did that performance in your eyes say about what could happen next and his chances of winning the undisputed title against the winner of Beterbiev-Bivol II?
In some ways, the performance made me more confident in his chances. In other ways, it made me less confident.
Healthy hands, though, unlike the Vosdik debut at light heavyweight, you see what you get now from him.
Yes, you got just relentless punishment, body work. Let's talk about the good part first, because I want to tell you about one thing that really kind of stood out to me, but let's talk about the good first from David Benavidez. First of all, I think he landed 47.9% of his power shots according to CompuBox.
Ridiculous.
Which is
in a close fight, in a close back and forth fight between elite guys, that's ridiculous.
And we'll talk about Morell in a minute because I also think he showed fantastic heart. But let's talk about the good part of Benavidez. The body work was absolutely tremendous. He found so many openings for it. BC, how about the guard peels and then coming around the corner?
Dude, the variety. Every fight, Benavidez is adding more offensively to the creativity. You're seeing little sidearm shots to get around the guard. You mentioned pulling the glove down and whacking him, the uppercuts, the combinations. And he does that standing right in front of you, squared up. I mean, it's ridiculous.
He has so many ways of getting you to defend and then builds offense around that you just can't. You're just going to get rained on. It doesn't matter where you put the umbrella. It just finds ways to get inside. And that's really what he was so effective at. The jab wasn't his most potent weapon, but it was very, very important, again, to get the gloves up, and then he could work around the sides and do the peels and everything else. So the body work, the creativity, the overall work rate, it's just hard to keep up with Benavidez because he's just nonstop. He's always in your face. And I want to say this too, BC. I don't want to overstate the case of Benavidez's defense. In fact, there was a couple times he got hit with some big shots and got his legs wobbled just for a moment.
Round 4, that right hand off the ropes.
And then in 11, obviously he had to touch the gloves, which is partly a trip, but he got hit with some big shots. I mean, there's no denying it. I'm not making the claim that he's some kind of defensive slickster. Far from it. However, for a guy who is always throwing and squared up in front of you, his defense, given those contexts, is actually pretty good.
Dude, can I tell you something?
Please.
Heading into the fight, according to CompuBox, he had the 3rd best plus-minus in all of boxing.
It's remarkable.
We're talking about Shakur Stevenson level. That's normally boxing technicians. This is a monster. This is a stalking bully who fights mean at every turn, which means he's always looking to add that extra power shot in, and yet it's hard to hit this guy and overtake him.
And I think to the extent he got hit at all in this fight with some of those big shots, it's only because Morell showed incredible gumption, which a lot of opponents I don't think necessarily would have, especially late in that fight. But, you know, his ability to step out at angles now, close range on his terms, he's just doing a bunch of stuff that, and also, BC, let's just be honest, part of his defense is his offense.
No question.
He's just throwing. So the guys just can't get going. But he complements that now with better defense along the way. And I have to say, through all of that, I'm like, dude, if he can just have a high work rate, he can beat anybody in that division. That's just the reality. And if you want to try and discipline him like Morell did, it wasn't enough.
He's got a great chin, too.
He has a phenomenal chin. And by the way, his cardiovascular conditioning, I'm not going to call it Marab level, but...
Well, it used to be a potential problem. Remember, when he was stripped of the title for the failed drug test, then missing weight, the narrative was this guy doesn't have the discipline to be an elite fighter. He turned that around in the Caleb Plant win. He's only gotten better in those areas because I rewatched this fight, and it's like every time Morell had success, Benavidez dug into a deeper gear and came back even more aggressive, more volume, constantly putting on him. He's a tsunami. I don't think we've seen someone his size, even if his power hasn't fully carried up to 75 on like a one-punch level, right? It's still more about
I want to talk about that.
Accumulation and beating you down. He is all over you. It is hard for anybody to. I'm actually surprised ultimately, and it's a credit to Morell that he went the distance because the version of Benavidez that he fought on Saturday was the prime best we've ever seen of him. So for Morell to go the distance there and even have a couple moments late, it speaks as we said to how great he may be one day. Because remember how young and he's only had 12 pro fights now.
Let me add to that if I may. BC, don't you find it really interesting that both in MMA and boxing now you're seeing guys emerge who don't necessarily have, at this weight class, we're talking about Benavidez, not 68 and below, they don't have lights out power, they don't have lights out finishing ability, but they have this insane capacity for work.
Yes.
And people just can't deal with it.
You have to hurt them to change them.
In MMA and it works in boxing. Again, there's differences between them, obviously, but I find that very noteworthy.
He's the least likely guy a couple years ago that we would think could weaponize cardio the way he does. Obviously, he's weaponizing it through the vehicle of a mean, hard-hitting, creative offensive force. But you're right. To some degree, he's weaponizing this cardio because it's not just can your backbone hold up. Like Demetrius Andrade looked good for a couple rounds, and then...
It just faded.
And, all we always talk about is, Benavidez like the great slow starter, takes time to adjust, but once he makes that adjustment, it's downhill. He was almost downhill in round one. And I asked him about it after the fight, and his response was... It was easier to hit Morell than he thought it would be. And I think some of that is due to the decision Morell made to actually kind of back up his words and trade a mano-a-mano. Morell didn't Didn't make this a boring fight by trying to circle away and use his legs. He stood and fought. But the fact that Benavidez started high pace from round 1, dude, when he's dialed in like this, I had questions coming in too. Could he beat Bivol or Beterbiev based on what we saw against Gvozdyk? Dude, when he's healthy, he can beat anybody.
Okay,
He can
so
beat anybody.
Let me tell you what concerns I have. You called him hard hitting. I am not convinced of that. At 175, I have real questions about his power.
From a one-punch standpoint, yes, I'll give you that.
He overwhelms you clearly. I'm not suggesting. I mean, look, he just beat a really quality opponent in a really quality way. But now we're talking about Beterbiev-Bivol. Very different ball game. If you can't hurt those guys, that's a tough fight to win. Just matter of factly. And a guy like Beterbiev is interesting because he's going to meet him head on. And a guy like Bivol is also interesting because his ring craft is the best in the entire division.
Yes.
So the two next fights for him are very, very different, but also much more interesting than even this one was already. But I just have to say, one, the power problem, I think, is going to be a real limiting factor at the very, very top end of this division for him. Second, right now, he is, flying high with good reason. He looks so fucking good. But this style is going to age poorly. Now, that's not really relevant for the next fight or the one after that, or really even for the foreseeable future. But it will age out quickly. It will age out quickly. If your whole premise is, I'm going to outwork you, but not with dominating power, when you begin to decline in age, that's going to catch up
let me ask
rapidly.
You this. It wasn't a topic this week, but when we went out last year to those PBC events, we talked to Jim Lampley a couple times. We interviewed him. One of those interviews, I remember him telling me, maybe it was the time that we were at that tank in Benavidez co-feature, that he had talked to Benavidez, and he thinks down the line that Benavidez could move up to heavyweight and has the size to do it. To do that, to go up to cruiser and then heavy, it's going to have to be more about boxing. And he's probably going to be able to. I mean, his speed, I thought Morell was going to have a distinct speed advantage over him, and Benavidez's hand speed was right there with him, right? I wonder if he's going, the higher he goes, if he's going to still be that bully or if it will be more of a mix of boxing.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I don't know what to say, but I just feel like there is so much enthusiasm about what he turned in on Saturday, and with very good reason, but we should not be blind to how the next set of matchups are both more difficult and directly challenge the way in which he wins fights by some of the most skilled power punchers and or technicians anywhere in boxing. Different ball game.
There were a few rounds. I mean, this will. It feels like this is a fight of the year contender. I don't know if it ends up being in the top 3 or 4.
Very good fight of the year. I don't know.
There were a couple sequences. Round 4 obviously was the big one where, I mean, especially those first 4 rounds were so tense, so much those back and forth exchanges.
How was the atmosphere in T-Mobile?
On fire during the main event, particularly.
Was there a big? I know we talked about it
during the Pitbull Cruz fight. It was on fire.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It was all Mexico.
That Pitbull Cruz Fierro fight was like on.
We're going to get to that. Yeah,
it was fishing with Hitler pre-meth. I mean, it was great. It was unbelievable.
Can we stop referencing that, please? God.
Okay, the point I want to make was, you heard it a little bit on the broadcast? Did Morell have a noticeable contingent of fans in attendance? There was a brief moment early in the fight where you heard Cuba.
Yes. And then the majority of the crowd started to boo in response.
Yeah.
Yes, which was kind of funny. I mean, dude, like they didn't sell out, but they had over 12,000 in there, and those were Benavidez fans and they were Pitbull fans. Let's be honest, Pitbull brings a big crowd wherever he goes.
Yes, he does.
But yeah, they were pro Mexican fans, and I mean, look, Benavidez. Say it like this. I already had him number 10 pound for pound. This is the fight, though. I think everybody's going to put him in pound for pound. Look at the run he's on. Look at the difficulty of the opponents. Look at the style difference going from power puncher Lemieux to Caleb Plant as a boxer to the creative in size and southpaw of Andrade, who's tough to beat and was unbeaten coming in, to Gvozdyk with the Ukrainian background, the former champion at 175. Now to David Morrell, who we didn't know how great he was, right? He only had 11 pro fights. We can only know at a certain level of competition. But Morell fought his ass off and rightfully lost. Dude, the run he's on.
He's pound for pound now.
He's pound for pound. He's an attraction.
Style, dude, the ability of David Benavidez is so remarkable that you mentioned, like, he's beating all these different body types, sizes, and now weight classes too. His style is a very unique one. It reminds me, again, for MMA fans, it's a little Khabib-like, where it's like, oh, Khabib has to go against this guy and this guy and this guy. But it ends up just being a case where they just pave over everything.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter. They're just going to lay the cement down and crush it.
You try to run on him, he'll cut off the ring and make it,
It just it just smothers everything in the end. And that's why, again, that's why the Beterbiev-Bivol fights are going to be so interesting.
We had Benavidez after the fight at the presser. We have sound of him talking about the power of Morell. He gave Morell a lot of respect afterwards, which I like to see after the week they had. Here's Benavidez.
How you doing, David? This is Najee from Cigar Talk. Congratulations on your victory tonight. You fought a bunch of elite opponents, throughout your career, between, Caleb Plant and Andre, and of course now Morell. Can you talk about where he ranks just as far as difficulty, between your past opponents?
He hits harder than everybody I faced. He's obviously because 175, so he's a good fighter, but I think just my experience alone, I've seen so much different styles. I've seen Caleb Plant, Demetrius Andre, Bosick, Anthony Durrell. Who else? So, I kind of, I'm just getting better and better, but this dude was good. He fucking brought it until the 12th round, you know what I mean? So he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, but, I think, like I said, I just showed what level I'm on.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Luke, we said experience was the major difference between them coming in, and I think you saw that. I think you saw that in there. There were moments that Morell, especially in round 11 with that hit after the bell, and he was kind of mentally rattled from that. Morell did rally and stay in the fight during the periods that you thought maybe he was going to get overwhelmed. I was, though, largely impressed by what Morell did here, even in defeat, to the point that I got to say something hot. Okay. I think he's problems for Canelo, Morell.
Okay, let me back up a step because I think that's an interesting thing to say. Aside from resiliency, which he had inarguably, what else did you like from the performance?
Because he didn't do what we thought he might, which was use his foot speed and some of that elusiveness to avoid Benavidez, he came right at Benavidez, kind of backed up the words that he said. And he actually, in the first half of the fight, was able to hurt Benavidez. Stand close enough. They operated at such close difference for two elite guys. It was a beautiful fight to watch from ringside. The creativity and explosiveness of his shots, the head movement, the baiting Benavidez in and then countering him with big shots. Look, he's an offensive machine in there. He's a very good fighter. I think, Canelo's always had issues with people with hand speed and foot speed. I think you add in that power, and I think he's bringing that explosiveness with him to 75. I was impressed. Were you not?
So I'll say this. I was absolutely impressed by him. But I'm going to say the following, and I really am curious what you have to say about it, which is, if you had never seen David Morrell before, you didn't really get the David Morrell experience. Now,
I think he fought Benavidez's fight to a fault to some degree.
So what I'm going to say is, on one level, that's actually a good thing because he never had to show this kind of heart before. I didn't know if he had it.
Yes.
He's got it.
He's got a chin, too.
He's got a chin. So those are great things that we learned. But we had described him, and I do think if you look at the body of work, this is fair. We had described him as a slick boxer puncher. Didn't get a lot of that.
He didn't commit to that style. And that's the thing. You can argue that
was a big problem. And I think you're asking, that's why I was asking, what did you like about it? Because if I wanted to show someone David Morrell, that's not the fight I would show them.
So let's say, and they're not going to do it, but let's say they had an immediate rematch. I think Morrell would box so much more. I think he tried to back up everything he said. I think he tried to back up everything he said, and he tried to beat Morrell mano-a-mano. I'm sorry, but tried to beat Benavidez.
Head to head.
And not just in a brawl, but like an explosive, close range, let's tit for tat. I think you would see him box more. I think you would see a better version of him if he mixed a little bit of that in. Now, he went with what he played his cards, and he fought. So there's an argument. It's weird. I thought it was, scoring-wise, I had an 8-4. One of those judges had 11-1. But, Dan Rayfield, a guy who I respect a lot, had it wide. He said, look, it was a competitive, fun, close fight, but scoring-wise, he had it very wide. Did you agree with that?
I did not have the scoring wide, no.
Because there's arguments that people are trying to make online that Morell rallied enough in the second half that it actually should have been a closer decision. I do kind of disagree. I thought 8-4. I thought 8-4 was solid.
I could go 8-4, 7-5. I don't know if that's considered wide or not. 7-5 is not. I don't know if 8-4 is
7-5 is as close as you can get. So it's not.
I don't know if 8-4 is considered wide. 2-1. I don't know how that goes, but to me, it was not really a mystery who won at the end, and I think trying to find rounds for Morell is cope. It's cope.
I'm with you on that. So here's the interesting thing.
But you got to tell me. Okay,
Morell,
Canelo.
I don't think Canelo's going to go anywhere near him. It's interesting. Canelo wasn't there. His trainer, though, Eddie Reynoso, was in the crowd. And although Eddie just signed a big to train a big prospect, I think he's from Mexico, who's going to debut on the PBC Tank pay-per-view coming up. That's like a big get for Eddie. So I don't know if it had more to do with that, or maybe he's scouting. But it's interesting. We didn't talk a lot about Canelo coming in. I didn't even ask Benavidez about Canelo afterwards because this isn't about Canelo. Canelo's at 68. He doesn't want to fight these guys.
Yep.
I think Morell would be an issue for him.
Tell
I
me
really
why.
do. I thought, even though we critiquing some of the parts of Morell's game, I thought the poise he showed in a tough fight at the highest level, not giving up, was key. The backbone, the all that. He can move dynamically. He's with the foot and hand speed. And you add in that he's a big dude with power and explosiveness. This version of Canelo, I don't think he wants to fight guys like this. I don't think he wants this type of smoke.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it would be competitive between Morell and Canelo, but I think that people who watch this fight, that's what I mean. They didn't quite get a sense of how slick and deft and clever he can be as a puncher. And I think against a more stationary Canelo, he'll walk you down, but he's a lot more trunk movement based. Yeah. Morell might feast. I mean, it's a strong word, but I don't know, man. I don't
know. I mean, Benavidez said he would not go down to 68 ever again. He said this before the fight. He said even if Canelo asked him. And by the way, Benavidez revealed, I don't know if you saw this podcast, that I think it was last year. He revealed that Al Heyman presented Canelo with a guaranteed $60 million offer to fight Benavidez at 68, plus getting huge pay-per-view upside. And Benavidez was only going to get $5 million, and he was going to only take home like 3.5 of that after paying everybody pre-tax. And Benavidez still said yes, and Canelo said no. So that's very interesting. but Benavidez is like, I'm not going down to 68 even if Canelo wants to anymore. If they fought at 175 tomorrow, Canelo Benavidez, what does it look like? What happens? Because Canelo did not look bad against Bivol at 75, but he got overwhelmed by a
I don't think Benavidez stops him. I think Canelo's chin is legendary. He is crafty. He would find ways to survive.
But would he get him off of him?
He couldn't get Benavidez off of him. People thinking like Canelo's power would discipline him, and I am very, very suspect about that. I think you look at a fight like Saturday, Benavidez doesn't stop him. Canelo's going to be really hard to stop. He's going to beat him up. I think he's going to beat him up like Bivol. You know, Bivol did it in a different way. But remember there was times where Bivol was like landing and then kept landing, and then you're like, okay, he'll stop now. And then he kept landing.
Canelo tried that rope-a-dope against Bivol, and he just got lit up.
I think Benavidez would have him up on the ropes. I think he'd fuck him up.
Interesting stuff. So here's what's also interesting. So this makes now Benavidez the mandatory, like we said, to face the winner of Beterbiev-Bivol II. But Luke, you could argue that with everything going on Saudi-wise in boxing, which is a lot, they're almost taking over all of boxing, and to a certain degree, that we talk a lot about, well, what about the North American market? What about the U.S.? What about Las Vegas? I mean, Benavidez planting his flag back in Las Vegas this weekend and getting $12,000 at T-Mobile is not a small thing. I felt like this was a big win for like American boxing to some degree. And then Benavidez says this afterwards about the idea of fighting in Saudi compared to Vegas.
You know, to be honest with you, that's the one thing they talk about, like Turkey Al-Rashid, and they tell you, would you ever fight with them over there in Riyadh? But at the end of the day, all my fan base is here in Las Vegas. I'm a Las Vegas fighter, you know what I mean? I would love to go over there and fight, but this is my market right here, and I feel like we're doing really well. We just sold out T-Mobile Arena, you know what I mean? It's one of it's a dream come true to me, you know what I mean? And I want to take advantage of this market because I've worked 11 years this is my first time having a freaking crowd like that, so I want to stay here.
Dude, he also would say that
American boxing owes David Benavidez such a fucking debt of gratitude.
Yes.
Do you know who was saying this over the weekend? He said something slightly different. Who was the guy that got sideways with Turkey for a bit? The reporter?
Jake Donovan.
Jake Donovan. I mean, I know they patched it up, but and Jake was like, dude, American boxing needed tonight badly. Yes, it did.
It did. And it was great to see, separate from my involvement on there, and, you know, it was great to see PBC come back and have a great night like that. But those are interesting comments. Does that, in your eyes, because Benavidez in other interviews this week said, look, I made a lot of money the last 9 years, but he's also trying to say it's not just about the money. Like, he was willing to take small money against Canelo, very small, just to get that on his resume because he wants to be great. Did his voice at all tell you that he may turn down an opportunity to go to Saudi and face the winner?
I believe that if the money is enough and the opponent is right, that any boxer would sell their services to the Saudis. I think it's important to really understand.
And he has said in the past that he'd be willing to work with.
Yeah,
with
it
Turkey.
didn't sound to me like he was precluding the opportunity. He was just saying it wasn't super interesting to him at the present moment. But, you know, let's be clear, it could obviously happen at some point. But what I will say is, I think that the guys. I think maybe I'm making an overgeneralization here, but the Mexican fighters in this country who either from here or second generation or Canelo comes here, whatever, who take their Mexican boxing fans seriously,
yeah,
they they have a bond with them that makes them internally say, I have to be here present in front of them.
And they travel from Mexico to Vegas for these fights.
Travel.
Yes.
And it's not enough to be like, okay, I could make, I'll make something up, $50, $100 million fighting in Riyadh. It didn't sound to me like David Benavidez was poo-pooing the notion of that.
Yeah.
But it did sound to me like he took the idea that he has a responsibility to American boxing, to his Mexican or Latino fans more generally based here, and that relationship can only be fulfilled from his end by competing here. A lot of guys are just like, fuck it, I'll just compete wherever, and I understand that too. Boxing's short, get money while you can. I get it. But when you've got time on your side, when you've got the sport on your side, when you've got the fans on your side, it is a different calculation. And honestly, he's not the only one making it. Inoue does it in Japan all the fucking time.
Yeah.
But of course, he'll compete here this year as well. So we could see Benavidez on the road. But I really can't say it enough. Guys like him, guys like Tank Davis, also Canelo Alvarez, not an American guy, but obviously competing here. They're doing a lot for the market in ways that nobody else is. We have to be grateful for that if you're an American.
And by the way, it wasn't picked up a lot, but Benavidez did say last week that he's also not against the idea of moving up to cruiserweight and challenging Zurdo Ramirez, a Mexican national, for a title there.
It's an interesting one.
Which is
the
also
power issue, I think, is going to be real.
Well, Zurdo's a blown up, 68, 75. It's just that Zurdo looks the best at cruiserweight of any division, maybe because he brings that speed with him, but so would Benavidez. That's an interesting thought. Obviously, as a fan, you want him now to face the winner of Beterbiev-Bivol. You want it,
No other fight. I mean, Canelo is in the rear view for me in terms of the Benavidez experience. And honestly, just say it out loud. A Benavidez versus Canelo fight is bigger and might be fun in different ways, but a better fight is Benavidez-Bivol or Benavidez-Beterbiev.
I would agree with that, especially when you consider Benavidez claims he has dropped and hurt Bivol in sparring.
Those are the fights to make. Those are the fights to make.
One final thing: did you see the pre-fight press conference when Morell's advisor Louis DeCuba Sr., which is interesting because Louis Jr. is an advisor for Benavidez
or Louis?
Both.
Okay.
Both. They had like crazy words at the press conference before the fight, which was surprising. Where Senior was like, "You're gonna get knocked out," blah blah blah, and he was very animated ringside. He sat behind us at the announcing booth. They had more at the post-fight presser. Watch this; it was wild.
Louis.
He called me a thief, man. And I'm not sitting here taking my head. Are you a thief? Hey, I wish I could trade checks with you guys. I wish I could trade checks with both of you. Come on. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. All right, we're going to wrap up. We're going to go. We're going to wrap up. Aprenda a perder. You lay a hand on me, you'll never punch me.
So what was interesting, they ejected him from that press conference. And what was interesting is right before that, Benavidez and Morell were friendly. They took pictures together. Benavidez actually gave the title belt back to Morell because, you take his belt, but then you give it back and you get mailed a new one. Mm-hmm. And they were real nice. But then Senior really took umbrage about the comments about him taking money out of Morell's check. And Benavidez was like, "I'll slap you right now." But the old man said, "Bring it, Luke." That was kind of wild. You don't see that too often.
Boxing, bro.
Boxing is wild. All right, let's go to topic number 4, which was, a loaded undercard and one that ultimately delivered in that co-main event, even though it was a rematch of the 2021 Fight of the Year, and even though it didn't necessarily live up to the action expectations, which is probably why the crowd booed at times in the second half, it lived up to the storyline expectations because boxing had effectively counted out former unified 122 champion and pound-for-pound top tenor Stephen Fulton Jr., and when he entered this rematch with Figueroa, I saw everyone picking Figueroa by late stoppage. In the end, Luke, it goes down as a redemptive, unanimous decision win as Fulton turned Figueroa, who at 26 had looked like more of a refined puncher than spamming offensive force. He turned him back into that version. He also did crazy style things that we'll get to in a second. But Luke, considering how badly that boxing Twitter basically said Fulton's washed at 31, and reportedly, even members of Fulton's inner circle pulled out after the Inoue loss. How big of a statement did he make in his first fight with new trainer Bozianis to go in there and disarm Figueroa the way that he did?
Blown away. I thought after the Castro fight, which was the one he took after the Inoue fight, where he looked like
he got dropped.
He got dropped. It was on a prelim card. You thought, okay, Inoue destroyed this guy.
And Fig had knocked Castro out in his featherweight debut,
right.
too.
I mean, you just thought, wow, this is terrible. This has really gone off the rails. And then he shows up ahead of time wearing jeans and modified Timbs, and I'm like, by the way, an epic look if ever there was one.
We'll get to, yeah, okay, so here it is right here.
Yeah. Now, by the way, people think those are real Timbs. I actually zoomed in on them.
They're designer boxing.
Yeah, they're
Jordan
modified.
Plant reported on it during the show, but dude, he's now going full-time with the name Scooter. He showed up on a scooter at the weigh-ins, but he was speaking monotone all week. We didn't expect any of this.
And then he came out with the mouthpiece that said, fuck you on it.
Well, can we see that long?
Let's take a look at this. Yeah, look at that, bro. I got to say, the reason why I found this so interesting was because it looked to me like he knew that the world had counted him out and he refused to give in to the narrative. And honestly, people were disappointed in this fight relative to the first one. The first one was a fight of the year contender and winner in certain ways.
The second one was still exciting and the crowd was booing the shit out
the
of
second
it.
one was, but the second
It was high
fight,
pace, at least.
It was high paced, but and it looked like the first one by the time it got to the end with Figueroa just kind of smothering everything. But the reason why this fight was not as good as the first one is because Fulton made changes to the way he fought, put Figueroa at distance, certainly through the first 4 rounds, and then pretty continuously in spots through the rest of the fight, clinched when he needed to, fought well on the inside when he needed to. Figueroa seemed, dude, at the end of the fight, show us the thing with his mouthpiece again. Look at this photo. This is close to the end of the fight. There's nary a mark on his face, and Figueroa was all over him.
He turned Figueroa into a spammer. He wasn't sitting down on his punches because he couldn't land anything.
He couldn't land anything. Dude, this was great by Fulton. This is why I don't think people were picking Fulton to beat Inoue, but he was in pound-for-pound discussions heading into the Inoue fight, and that all collapsed. I'm not saying this brings him back, BC, but it does bring him back from the place that he was, which was being considered a bust and a washout. He is now a champion, up a weight class. Holy fucking shit. This was big for the kid from Philadelphia.
It was. And I thought he was going to dunk on people more, but he was very humble afterwards. And you see the hard work he put in. The Bozy factor. He didn't replace his trainer. He still has his dad in there in the original team. But they added Bozy. And you saw the difference, Luke. There was much more class countering so stiffly against Figueroa, which was a big part of the success Fulton had early in rounds the first time. But you know what may have been the underreported the difference, Luke? Fulton told us this during the fighter meetings. He said his weight cut to 122 was so hard in the first Figueroa fight that he didn't have the energy to fight for all 3 minutes of each round, that he had to, quote, I think he said ghetto it out or gangster it out in terms of just biting down. And that also, I think that fight was an action fight and tricked us. Maybe that's true, although it was also obviously a hard cut to 22 for Figueroa, but fully formed at 26. He not only had the better gas tank, it seemed, he was physically moving Figueroa around in the clinch, too. He was not allowing himself to get
pushing
overwhelmed.
Him off constantly. Now, again, that kind of faded the longer the fight went, but he did it long enough, often enough, and successfully enough where Figueroa had no real meaningful adjustments at all. It was only Fulton who had the adjustments, and he was the clear winner in my mind when
he was wearing jorts.
Wearing fucking jorts.
That's insane.
Actually, I don't even think they were jorts. I think they even looked like jorts. What did they look like up close?
Look at they looked. I mean,
so he's got they're torn at the bottom, but at the top it's like an elastic waistband.
Yeah. So ultimately they are boxing shorts. They're customized, obviously, but they look very denim jorts in person. It looks like when I was a kid, it was a total 80s thing. My dad would always get thrown out of water parks or told he had to leave because he never owned a pair of swim trunks. He would just take jeans and cut them off at the thigh, right? Yeah. And there'd be like the pocket hanging out, but they got like those buckles on it that scrape against the water slides. You know what I mean? He kind of looked like my dad in 1983. All he needed was like a cigarettes rolled up in his t-shirt right there. That was,
I mean, I know that Timbs are very popular in Philly, but I've kind of always associated Timbs with like New York City. I don't know if that's fair or not.
Could just be an East Coast thing, ultimately.
The Timbs are not that big in D.C. They're big, but they're not that big.
Well, maybe part of why the crowd was booing because how could they top what we saw in the second fight of the 4-fight pay-per-view card? And that was Pitbull Cruz looking to bounce back from that loss in the 140 title bout to Jose Valenzuela, coming back in the same division. And I told you guys that this guy was a live dog. Angel Fierro of Tijuana, Mexico, who I had seen on Ring City a few years back, coming on 6 days' notice, get dropped twice, get up, and knock out former champion Alberto Machado. Luke Thomas, Fierro turned in a performance that was worthy of the hype that this fight got, meaning that the WBC created a a special commemorative like Mexican all-action brawl title. They had the family of the late Israel Vasquez come in and present that belt. It was everyone's talking about 25th anniversary of Morales Barrera. Luke, these two came in and poured the damn jug out from like the opening bell, gave us 12 incredible rounds of action. Cruz wins a close decision. I did see some narrative out there that Fierro may have exposed Cruz, the limitations of his offensive game. Is it that true, or is this more about Pitbull maybe having 140 limitations as opposed to maybe 35, which is a better weight class
I think
for him?
Pitbull has stylistic limitations, but Fierro just looked to me ungodly tough. I mean, there
Just
were times
huevos.
like Pitbull can crack.
Yeah.
Like Tank's even said Pitbull can
There were some
crack.
early right hands where Fierro was rocked.
Dude, there were times. Dude, fuck the first few rounds. Throughout was it 10 or 12, whatever it was.
Yeah, maybe
There
a
were
10.
times when Fierro was getting cracked, and I was like, surely he's going to stumble here. And he just kept pressing on. And I was like, okay, this is an unusual level of toughness. Rayo, I thought, beat him with toughness and skill. Obviously, Pitbull got his hand raised here, but what I'm trying to point out was I thought Fierro made it very competitive in certain ways. But he didn't do it with as much skill. So what I'm going to say is, it's not like I have a huge change in opinion on what Pitbull can and can't do. It does, to me, seem some weight class dependent, but really opponent dependent. But I just know what Fierro was able to do in withstanding it. I'm telling you, I was watching with my wife, and I was like, okay, he's going to fall here. And he just kept going. Oh, he's going to fall here. He's going to fall here. And he just kept going, and then putting it on Cruz at certain points and turning the tide in certain ways.
Rounds 3 and 9 are round of the year contenders.
Yes.
They were just
Round 3 was
mayhem. Yes,
bananas.
yes. So let's show the love. I don't think we have the audio, but here's Fierro walking out. So this was a dominant Cruz Mexican crowd, and obviously Fierro's from Mexico too, but they gave him so much love on the way out. Luke, to be honest, Fierro was considered more of a journeyman type coming in, but a plus journeyman because he's got balls and he doesn't have a bad record, only 2 defeats coming in. This is as good of a moral win as you can get.
Yeah.
Do you think he should kind of be added to the celebrity mix at 140 with the elite names, whether it's in PBC? I'm not sure his promotional status. I know he was briefly signed with Eddie Hearn for a little bit a few years ago.
Yeah.
Do you think could he do this again against these other big players at 140, you think?
I didn't see enough skill to make me believe he could do that, but, you know, throw up the bat signal, we need a fun fight.
Yeah.
I mean, he is your fucking
Well, he was
guy.
so much bigger than Pitbull. He had a 7-inch reach advantage.
Okay, everyone's bigger than Pitbull, though.
Okay, will we see this again?
Ooh. I'd say the chances are greater than 50%, yeah.
And is this a legitimate fight of the year contender in your mind?
Yes. I will say, though, watching this fight, you know, they were talking about Ryan Garcia versus Pitbull, and obviously I have no clue what condition Ryan Garcia is in mentally or physically.
Yes.
But if Ryan is halfway sober and halfway himself, I think he smokes Pitbull. I think he smokes him.
That's going to be
Pitbull
a long
is
reach
fucking
advantage.
hittable. He's hittable, man. Super hittable. He's durable and he's tough. Please don't misunderstand me, but we're talking about Ryan Garcia's like speed and accuracy.
Well, it's interesting.
I slept on Ryan ahead of the Devin Haney fight. I'm not going to do it again. Like,
it's as if the loss to Tank made Pitbull because he took him the distance, because he turned Tank into a boxer, really. But we know Tank hurt his hand in that fight, and it really only had the use of his right hand. But also, took that fight on late notice after they pulled Rolly from it. So if they had a rematch, how do you think Pitbull versus Tank 2 would go?
Same way it went the first time. I think Tank is underrated as a boxer. I broke down that footage for CBS and Showtime, and that fight is a big on check hooks, pivoting, circling out, great footwork, great ring generalship. Pitbull walks forward, but dude, in that fight, I have to go back and look at the exact round, but by round 8, I believe, in a 12-round contest, Tank had already figured him out, and Pitbull was just kind of in cruise control the last few rounds because he couldn't get ahead. I don't see any reason why that would be any different this time.
Yeah, but what a hell of a fight. A joy to call. Shout out to those two gentlemen for bringing it. I mean, that's a lot of pressure when they make a commemorative bell and everybody's talking about Barrera Morales, and those two go out there and give us that. Like, that's... Is your audio good? Oh, I just lost you in my ear. Whatever.
Yeah, Luke, I don't know what you hit. But
Yeah,
we
you
lost
hit
here,
something.
too.
You turned yourself off.
Once again, I didn't do nothing.
Let's bring in
There we
Ken.
go. Here we go.
There
Here
we go. We're back.
You see what I mean? You see what
Yeah.
I mean? Fucking, what am I? I didn't even touch anything.
You should just fist fight Ken, our sound
Likely
guy.
story.
Let's go to topic number
Wait,
5.
BC, real quick. Can you
yeah.
explain what happened with the gloves before this fight? What was that all about?
I didn't end up getting the final story, but it was during the prelims an issue, and they had the cameras backstage. It looked like whatever gloves Pitbull was planning to use weren't approved by the commission or weren't approved by the opponent. They figured it out. They ultimately got it. I don't know if it was a situation like, remember Mayweather Maidana, where Maidana wanted to use the puncher's gloves from Mexico, the Reyes gloves, the horsehide gloves, and Floyd ended up paying him a huge chunk of money not to use those. So I'm not sure the situation in the end, but it's a good question, Long Island Luke. I never got a clarification on that. I was only a commentator in the end of the day. All right.
Appreciate you clearing it up.
Thank you.
I will say that they had that main event running by like 11.
Oh, it was quick. That was a quick broadcast.
I
for
was
the most
so
part.
happy with the speed of that. Dude, when they start those pay-per-views at 8, UFC is like, we can't start pay-per-views till 10. I'm like, dude, I don't know about that.
Dude, I love that Al Heyman doesn't allow them to do the I don't know if it's his call. I assume like the national anthems.
Yeah.
Because that could have been, I saw people tweeting, that could have been a 3 national anthem main event, and they ultimately
oh fuck, you're right. Yeah.
They ultimately didn't, which was great.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to hear them.
Yeah. Let's go to topic number 5. As mentioned, we will be back this Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, in this studio with Chuck Mindenhall, giving you the full pregame preview brought to you by Cuervo. But it is UFC 312 this Saturday in Australia. What city is it in Australia?
Sydney.
In Sydney, Australia.
At the Kudos Bank Arena.
Not the home of Mr. Nocita of Melbourne fame, but, Luke, it is a card, okay?
I believe it's pronounced Melbourne.
No, it's pronounced Melbourne.
I know.
Locals.
They're like, listen, I know what the letters say. Fucking ignore it.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce
Caceres.
Melbourne.
I mean,
Now feels like a good time to bring up the results of the poll.
Okay.
So we have 650 plus votes.
For? Oh, which card is better?
Yeah, 61% are saying UFC Saudi is better than UFC.
just clowns, just buffoons.
I think they're right. I think they're right.
You're both wrong, and you're going to see that you're both wrong.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. All right. So, Luke Thomas, as it goes down this weekend, main event, of course, a middleweight title rematch between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. What storyline surrounding UFC 312? And obviously, we're going to break this shit down intensifyingly on Friday. But from a distance, which one has you most interested?
Can I tell you, there's a million ways to go. As I mentioned, Cody Steele being on the prelims, I think is a big deal. I would say from a storyline standpoint, I'm paying most attention to Tatiana Suarez. This seems like a very do or die moment. But can I pick something a little bit different?
You can pick whatever you want, but we'll put a poll out to prove you wrong.
Okay. Yeah, fair. I'm sure you would. Listen, you guys are all wrong about this card. I don't know what to tell you. But okay. There is something interesting about the main event. Now, the first main event, I rewatched it. It's not very fun. Fair to say.
It's high skill and it's tense, and it was kind of
high skill, tense, but not super thrilling.
Yes. Okay. I have called it a thriller in the past. I'm probably wrong. Let me rewatch it.
But certainly not crap. I'm not saying it's crap.
Yeah.
In real time, I thought DDP won. Second time, I thought Sean Strickland won. I watched it again. I definitely thought Sean Strickland won. Okay. It's not about that or the implications, but Sean Strickland has made an alteration to his style that I thought was made bare in the first fight. Sean Strickland has decided that he's going to do he does sort of a square Philly shell, picks up the lead leg to counteract leg kicks, parries, kind of leans out of the way, all that stuff. But what really happens is that when DDP blitzes, and this happens not just with DDP, but you saw it in this fight a lot, he would retreat, cross-stepping out of the way, leaning his head all the way back. And if you look on the camera here, if my hips are in front and my head is back, this is a mechanically not advantageous position from which to throw anything. In fact, he typically does not. Sometimes he will get guys off of him, but he doesn't throw. Something happened in the Paulo Costa fight, the one in between this one, where you saw him issue these retreats. He would stop and then try and throw. He didn't do it all that successfully, but it was clear he was tired of losing 5-round fights when these wars of attrition, where it's kind of hard to tell who's winning, and he's coming up razor close. So they decided if you're just going to retreat like that, you will lose these fights. It's too much you're giving up. You're forced to reset. You can't throw from this position. There's no counterattack. So they're trying to change his style.
Interesting.
They're trying to make him sit down, retreat in a certain way that enables you to throw back. Because I think if he goes back to what he did the first time, coin flip. I don't know how it's going to go. They're trying to put more muscle into his defensively oriented style. This is the time to make that work. and they're bringing in Poatan, and I saw. Well, can we play the clip? Because I actually think this is a really interesting.
Mike Heck of
addition.
MMA Fighting caught up with Eric Nixick, friend of the show.
Friend of the show. Why is Poatan in the corner if he doesn't speak English? I actually think Nixick has a great answer to this.
How did this all come together to get Alex in the corner for this one?
He was going to be out there. And it was just one of those things where we were looking at the corner and I knew he was going to be out there. And, you know, Johnny Eblen couldn't make it out. I was hoping to have him in the corner. Myself and Danny Davis will be there. And it was just a matter of convenience. And these are two guys that really trust one another. You know, Sean went out there to help him get ready for Khalil Roundtree. And, you know, what people don't really understand, and I see some people thinking it's like a publicity thing. It's more about the comfortability in your corner. And not only that, what Alex is going to bring to the locker room. And Sean warms up very, very hard. Sean basically fights in the back to get his eyes and his rhythm and his timing on point. Who better to be back there to help you warm up than Alex freaking Pereira, right? Like, that guy's going to help. So I see, you know, I've seen a couple comments here and there about he doesn't even speak English. He was in our corner for the last Dricus fight. He sat right behind me and he told me everything in my ear. Hey, make sure he teeps more. Make sure he jabs more. We speak MMA, right? There's enough for him to be able to say, to help, to be a resource for us. And look, if we're going to battle, who better to have in your corner than Alex Pereira? So I'll take him in any capacity that we can get. But there's a lot of deeper levels and layers of having in the corner than just him just standing there looking scary, you know? So he's going to help us a ton.
Okay, here's why this is important and relevant. I mentioned they're trying to reform Strickland's style, and you're bringing in now a guy like Poatan, who I think you're getting him ready in the back, all of the prep, all of the maybe some advice he might get between rounds. But the point I wanted to make was, remember what Dricus said about how he beat Sean Strickland, and his answer was volume. Yeah. I just kept throwing, I just kept going. They're going to try and meet fire with fire. I'm not declaring to you that the fight is going to be a barn burner. What I am saying is it's going to be a test case about whether they can fight fire with fire by trying to turbocharge some of the offense that has been missing from his style. To me,
okay, this has me excited.
This is why when people were shitting on this main event, I'm like, again, I cannot declare to you what's going to happen. But the pessimism around it, to me, is a little strong.
I agree with that. And like I said, I thought the first fight was interesting to watch. I want to see the second one. My biggest storyline was going to be Poatan, but my question was, is it going to be more ceremonial? That is an interesting breakdown of the ways that it actually could affect. At first, I was like, are they trying to set up DDP moving up to 205? So they'll have, has nothing to do with that, right? It's just sort of like Strickland gets on with Chama. They're good, which is a weird partnership, but it works, right? This is good. This is going to be interesting come Saturday night. I'm really excited about that.
You know what? They had Pereira showing video of him cheering for Izzy in this fight. Did you see that?
Yes, they've become friendly and had like they shared that they've shared DMs and
I think so. And like, you know, dude, these guys are like, once the battle's done, man, there's no reason to.
Yuri and Jamal throwing down shots in the bar.
Exactly. I actually prefer to see.
We didn't see it under the cap there, but Nick Sick's hair has made a comeback, right?
You know what? My man took that flight to Istanbul.
Dude, what about Danny Rube getting on that? Is he going to be better about this? Because I love Danny. He's my favorite manager in the game. You know what I mean?
Dude, he texts me when he sees this shit. He's like, why does Brian Campbell keep doing this?
He was a great wrestler at OU. D1, baby. Okay, big time D1.
Listen, he's not the tallest man I've ever seen.
No, but he's connected.
Yeah, he's connected.
Isn't he Shafkat's guy?
He is Shafkat's guy.
Who else does he have?
Armin, DDP.
Yes.
He's got a lot of guys.
Yes. There we go. All right, those are our 5 topics. Unless no seed, you got anything to say about 312, or we'll save it for Friday?
We'll hit it on Friday.
All right, thank you very much. That's the best. That's why we have them here. Those are our 5 topics. Thank you for playing. Now we move on to our first fan-related segment of the week, and it is the call that we put out every Sunday night on social media at Morning Kombat. And obviously you can see our email address, morningkombat@gmail.com, which is reserved for the Friday elements. You won't see them this week, but fan subs. What's the other one? Dead Wrong. This one, though, is about you having questions that need answers. This one's called DMs from Dongs. That's just so, like, gross and offensive. That's
I mean, this is the worst thing I've ever heard.
Okay, what do we got here? Let's hit it. Let's hit it, and let's hit it hard. This is from Flannels and Jits, Luke, which, sounds like a Christmas vacation from high school, watching Cinemax the whole time, right? What are the top 3 fights to make for Izzy after this defeat?
There's nothing I wish to see. My dream, and I mean this sincerely, dude, you saw the best of him. I have no desire to see him clobbered.
Trilogy with his buddy Whitaker? Nothing.
No, I don't want to see any of it. Dude, I don't pine for watching aging legends perform in the ageist part of their career. I don't understand.
Does this extend to the adult film industry too?
some examples that I can think of. Might get an exception, but
I mean, fucking fighting it's all the same.
It's all the same, really. But I'm being serious. Like, I just don't. I'm not even thinking about top 3. I'm not thinking about anything. I recognize that like there might be some more on the way, but
this is the part of the show where we stop being serious.
Well, I mean, like it seemed. Again, I understand the fan impulse to not let aging fighters who you had a strong attachment to go. I get it. It's totally normal. But at some point, you have to reckon with the fact that you get to a place, dude, the fight game is not a fucking joke.
Okay, well, what
People
about
get
this?
really hurt.
What about this?
It's over.
What about this? Izzy versus MVP.
No, I don't have it in.
That's not Long Island. That's not crazy.
So a lot of people were saying that in my live chat. They're like super friendly, like
Yes,
really good
they're very
friends. I don't
friendly.
think they'd fight each other.
Yes. All
right.
But I will say the Gastelum rematch. Come on, that's always on the table.
Oh, come on. What, it's like a one more?
And what about Shara Bullet? Shara Bullet Izzy. He called him out the fight before. That's an interesting fight.
First of all, our matey, Steve, just please turn in your Excel spreadsheet reports, please. What the fuck are you doing?
Very much.
Dude,
Let's see.
No one has ever been in, like, in real life, pirates are dangerous and shit, but like, who has ever been intimidated by a pirate gimmick ever in your life? Like, it's the least intimidating thing ever. The closest you can get to it is like, I don't know, like, who is intimidated by fucking pirate shit? He's wearing a rag like an old washwoman somewhere in the middle, of nowhere, or just cleaning clothes on a fucking clothesline and shit. Like it's the lamest fucking.
You know what
gimmick.
he should walk out to? That Creed song, "With Eye Wide Open." You know what I mean? That was sorry, that was forced. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one, please. From Liam, Luke's favorite first name.
Definitely not American.
Who is seen as the better striker in all of MMA? Izzy or Alex? Both have a win over each other. Alex is a 2-weight champion. Izzy has more title defenses. So they want to know who's the better pure MMA striker of the two. It's got to be Izzy, right? No,
Well, that's complicated because certainly, let's be clear. Alex did way more in kickboxing. He was a double champ. Izzy was never a champ in like the highest level. He was good at the highest level, but he was never great, and Poatan was great. So there's one big difference there. In MMA, that's tough.
Izzy has, despite getting knocked out in the first fight, has like dominated more of the action against him in MMA.
But he mixed it up. I mean, there was takedowns in that fight too. I mean, certainly you can say this. The difference we talked about where Izzy is managing guys and diffusing bombs, that's not what Poatan does. Poatan just goes and just fucking, lays it down. He lowers the boom on you. Yeah, he lowers the boom on you. And that makes it a very different proposition. I will say that Izzy has seemingly more tools. I do think that is true. He uses a lot more to make his product work. But there's a certain, like, brutal simplicity to what Poatan does that is fucking magic.
Is it crazy that the two biggest catchphrases in MMA begin with the letter CH?
Shama and...
Chiweewees!
I forgot about Chiweewees.
Next one, please, Long Island. Thank you. From @YouDon'tKnowTyler.
You're right, I don't.
Assuming Canelo beats Bud and collects the lone belt from William Skull, is the likelihood that Canelo goes up to face the winner of Benavidez-Bivol?
Oh my God, give up
Undisputed
on this,
versus Undisputed. I don't think he wants it, but
Dude.
Is there a scenario where Canelo goes, all right, I've done my money gets, and now I want one more huge one that will bring...
He'll cash out with Turkey.
So you think Bud is the cash out then?
No, he's saying in this the scenario that he posited was what happens if Bud so he beats Bud, right?
Yeah.
That's the scenario. So now we're talking in a post Bud world. I think when he's ready to be done, he might go and say, I'll just give one more go at Bivol, and if I lose, I'm done. Have a huge check. But like, dude, I don't know what delusional world people are living in where people think Canelo is hunting down tough fights. He's been doing the opposite for literally years at this point.
But he's the rest of his career has been badass, so it's so hard to just act like this is just who he's become. I'm like, is he waiting Benavidez out in some level of damage or something?
That's absolutely not who he was. What he did up to 2020, when did he beat Caleb Plant? 2021?
Yeah.
So like up to that point, he was a fucking Terminator. But since that point, since the Bivol loss anyway, it's been the exact opposite.
I mean, he did want to get Bivol a second time, Bivol at 75, and he couldn't. So I'll give him the credit for wanting it. But dude, there's like whispers that he might fight Jake Paul this year. There's like whispers out there.
I think it's.
I really hope.
I don't know if I would say that it's likely.
I just really hope not. People, please, can we just stop with this BS? Okay, let's go to the next question from the folks, from the people here. From Hawaii's finest, right? Telvin Kipapa.
Yeah.
Take that, Daz, right? Who do you guys have winning the Super Bowl? The Eagles or the Chiefs?
This is truly this is the Sophie's choice, really, of Super Bowls. It's
Yeah.
like the Kansas City Chiefs, who basically everyone outside of Kansas City is fucking sick of, versus the worst fan base in American pro sports in the Philadelphia Eagles. Who, by the way, I don't know if you saw all the videos of the Commanders got whooped when they played at the Link, and they're all leaving, and all the Philly fans are just fucking harassing and quite literally physically attacking them.
Those are Sean Brady's people.
I like Sean Brady a lot, but I don't think Sean would do that. But I agree, Sean is associated with them, and they are dirtbags.
I mean, you're right.
I have a rule that if my team loses and they lose thoroughly, I actually cheer for the team that beat them because they won fair and square. Philly won fair and square.
Philly does have nicer service workers than DC.
How do you know that's true?
I've been to Philly.
I've been to Philly too.
I mean, you can get stabbed in Philly pretty quickly, but they'll sell your jokes at the register at least, all right? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna cheer for Philly, and it's Sophie's choice. The Nazis are asking you which kid you want to give up. I don't know what there was a right answer to that one, but
I don't really care. I'm gonna be fair.
I'll
I'll watch passively.
You got a beat on the Super Bowl?
I don't really care either, but you're right about Philly fans being insufferable, so I'll go Chiefs.
Dude, who are these? I saw these Commanders fans being like, "No, I got harassed at the Link," and I'm like, why the fuck would you go to Philadelphia head to toe in whatever team's gear? You saw that? You see the guy who lost his job?
Yes.
Who attacked the girl with the Green Bay Packers gear at the same fucking stadium?
These fan bases, they act like they're gangs.
Yeah. I mean, why would you ever go to an NFL game ever? It's the worst experience known to man. But then more to that, like, why would you go to fucking Philly? Dude, I told you this. I took my wife. She had never been to an NFL game before.
Don't take her to one.
I didn't take her to Philly, but I took her to, this was when the RG3 season, and I took her to see him play the Giants at, Meadowlands?
Yeah.
Meadowlands, right?
Yeah, or it's MetLife, no. But
MetLife, whatever. And we go through the turnstile, and immediately in front of us, a fist fight broke out.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's just like Columbia.
Just less BBLs.
Just less BBLs.
Do we have more questions from these people? This is from @Fron_607. Not really a question, but BC, you did great.
Yeah,
yes,
you did, dude.
I'm very happy for you. I get nervous when you post more than 3 motivational quotes a day. Yeah,
Dude.
People are always like, what's going on in your life? I'm like, I'm trying to share hope and optimism with others.
Bro, you post more motivational quotes
Yes.
than like the dumbest Barbie girl on Instagram ever.
That is, but that's me,
Yeah.
That's who I am. So thank you. I appreciate that. Obviously appreciate all the
Did you
people.
get any feedback?
Not corporately, but from the people,
donks?
from the donks, from the people. It was a lot of love.
How did you feel when it was over?
I felt tired, but I felt like we did very well. Yeah. I mean, I can improve in certain areas for sure, but I feel like for day one chemistry, Abner, Morrow, and I, we did pretty damn well.
We talked about this before the show. Dude, I've not been the biggest fan of Abner.
Oh, this was his best show by far.
Fucking killed it. And I
He
know,
was great.
we talked about this before. I want to say this. I know people were saying that he was not necessarily given the most accurate translations. I'm not going to name names. I'm just going to say I know a lot of the people who do those translations typically, and Abner's was as good or better than most of them. So
I can't comment on that because I don't speak.
So he's commentating and doing translation. You were doing, again, prelim card, main card, and post-fight interviews.
Yes.
It was smooth, brother.
Yes.
It was smooth.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Is that it, Long Island Luke, for the people? Thank you so much for your questions. A reminder for next week's show, morningkombat@gmail.com. We'll give you access to fan subs, Dead Wrong, and potentially showing your package to Mikey, but do not do that. Thank you so much.
Please,
All
please
right.
do that.
Please don't. That's so disgusting.
Please absolutely
Our
do that.
final segment of the week involves me surfing the globe on Sundays to find the highs and lows, the good and bad. Only I was traveling this week. So, Luke, this is like my B squad. You know, like when your favorite band can't put an album together because they're doing heroin, so the record company's like, here's an odds and sods B-sides collection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a bunch of shit. Have you seen it? Let's see if my JV team can still entertain you, Luke. Did you hear about the big GFL signing over the weekend?
Did they sign somebody who's dead and they just dug up his corpse?
Kind of. Let's see it.
Oh,
They're
doing bits
Too
now.
soon.
See,
Too
this is what
soon.
I mean, dude. Stop disrespecting the fucking legends.
Too
like this.
soon.
This is what I mean.
They're making this guy seem like he's old. Luke, you know what they should do with old people? Take virtual reality toys away from them.
Your right finger. Push your right finger into it. There you go.
Okay, when you hike the ball, you gotta hold the right trigger down.
Blue 42! Blue 42, hut!
You gotta hold it, keep it held down, and then don't move.
Oh, Luke, R.I.P. Kobe, but people are still out here asking you how your ass tastes. Check this out.
I support this.
Okay.
That's
not pro soccer, right? That looks like Weekend Warrior stuff.
No, this looks like pro soccer in like the third division in some
oh
very
my
poor place.
God, that's not a teabag. That's a rim job right there. That is.
Listen, how do you combat flopping in soccer? Teabags, butthole.
That is
There
incredible.
you go.
Yeah. So let's watch this video.
Since when is sherbet spelled like that?
All right, you're done. Get out of here.
Double check that.
I did. What the f is happening?
Luke,
so this guy,
we can call it sherbet. It's fine, okay? It's not like when people say
you can call it sherbety bibbity hobbity doobity. It's called sherbet.
People say February all the time and often.
They say February.
No, they don't. Or they say
you're right, they don't. But it is sherbet. I'm right.
If you say sherbet, you're an asshole. I know you're trying to do the pedantic. I'm educated.
Can I
thing,
tell
but...
you why I know it's sherbet and not sherbet? Can I tell you? And I'm being dead serious.
Okay,
Ready? I lost in the 4th grade spelling bee because I got this wrong.
Was that the town spelling bee?
It was no. It was you know what? I went to. They changed the name. I forget what the name of the school is. It was Thomas Jefferson Elementary. That was where I went. That's a different school name now. I don't know what it's called now. It was my first year there. I just moved there when my mom got divorced from my dad, and it was the spelling bee, and they were like, spell sherbet, and I thought in my mind, oh, sherbert, B-E-R-T, and they're like,
I would have done the same thing, yeah.
It's bet, B-E-T, and I was like, there's no fucking way it's bet, and then I went home and I looked in the dictionary, and for sure it was sherbet, and I was sad.
Did you know that I won the town spelling bee in 5th grade?
No, you didn't.
And I went to the state championship, and I finished 14th.
Wow, did you really?
Yeah.
How did you become so fucking inept?
Marijuana, Exhibit A. Yes, there you go. There it is.
So that's the only reason I know that is because I got fucking
also
lost in the goddamn thing.
Whippets behind the RB.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah,
that'll do
that's true. Hey, vote for Tito, right? Let's check this out.
I take a lot of slack from people saying that you're a sellout. You know what? I'm not a sellout. I'm an American. And at the end of the day, united we stand, and divided we will not fall.
That's not how that quote goes.
Look, don't tread on him, please.
Yeah.
Even Dana got in the comments on that post and was like, oh my God, people are still giving you a microphone in 2025. He was like, my boy.
I thought, hold on, Tito was on the season of The Apprentice with Trump, right?
Possibly.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was on.
He was on. Yeah,
Celebrity Apprentice.
I used to love Celebrity Apprentice, by the way.
I watched The Apprentice. I'm not going to.
I used to love the shit out of that show.
I only lasted like most shows. I only lasted a season.
Don
or two.
Jr. was great in that show.
They weren't. I mean, obviously, I didn't know he was a ketamine-addled fucking idiot. But I'll say this: I thought that Trump and like Tito were like not close or something, but they had a positive relationship.
I don't think you can be friends with Tito and Dana. I think Dana.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. I mean, it feels like he's been iced out a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think life is icing, to some degree. But Luke, it's time to play a game we haven't played in a long time. It's time to rate that tat, dude. 1 to 10, 10 being
perfect.
Perfect. Okay, Here we go. Let's start off. This comes to us from the artist Pablo Esquiel Frias,
I'm sure you said that correct.
And it took 18 hours. Luke, give me a rating 1 to 10 on this.
This is a 10. This is about as good as this style of tattoo gettings. Look at the saturation on the color. The shading is perfect. The placement on the body is absolutely.
I've never seen colors pop like that, dude. That is.
So you know what's interesting is I got a tattoo years ago, the one that's got the flag on my arm, and I remember that when I got these newer ones, they looked at that one, and I was asking why is this one fading? And what they told me is recently, I guess in the last 5 to 7 years, there's been an advancement in tattoo coloring ink. It's gotten both safer and better quality. And I asked him, I was like, oh, how long will these ones last? And his answer was, because these are so new, they actually don't even know. They expect it will last longer. But the point I'm trying to make is that is skill. For sure that is skill. But it might be just also a product of really good new material too.
So that's a 10. Mr. Hebos's tattoo was a what? A
negative 75,000.
Oh my God. Let's go to the next tat that Luke can rate.
Titty, go here.
Luke, can we get a score, please?
It's a 10 for effort.
Yes.
The taste buds look like he has some kind of disease.
Look like rib cage mostly.
Also, it's just
Or
really
bones.
unappealing. I'm going to go 3.
Okay, let's go to the next one, Luke. This is a real touching, romantic one with the heart.
It's a certain kind of minimalist tattoo. Again, line work, not terrible. Saturation, good. Artistic expression, a little questionable.
Okay.
4.
4. Okay, let's go to this NFL fan, Luke. I think you can give him a 0, but what about his Niner gang back of the head?
Why don't you get
tat?
more acne on the back of your head, you absolute 0? Well, I mean, look at this.
Is this a
Dude, what is
0.0?
the difference between being an NFL fan and a goddamn prison gang? I don't know, except I guess they use red coloring on the tattoos as opposed to just black and gray. This is terrible. This is 0.
Do you think tattoos on the back of the head are more often than not always terrible?
More often than not, yes, but there certainly are exceptions.
What about political ones on the back of the head?
Oh, fuck me. What do we got here? Oh, my God. What line is this fucking hero standing
7-Eleven, obviously.
Yeah, of
okay,
course.
that's good shit right there. All right, hey, I got a new toy idea, Luke, for Tukes. What do you think?
Oh, God. Dude. That is a little mean.
All
a little
right.
on the mean side.
Have you ever seen the longest bowling strike before? Watch this.
Well, that's a 10
That's
out of
pretty
10.
awesome.
That
That
is,
is-
I mean, off the carpet. No
Yeah,
less.
come on. That is pretty.
That is
pretty
sensational.
awesome. Luke, we all love those Zoom, after COVID, we love those Zoom videos where someone doesn't realize their camera's still on and they're like getting the jerkins out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Check out this little thing.
Jeffrey Tubin.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have a question, unmute yourself and shout away.
Yeah, Teach, this shit is Reggie, dude. I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do, dude. This shit is garbage. What do I say to the plug? Yo.
The teacher ended the.
Long Island Luke, we are two assholes in their 40s. What does it mean that the weed is Reggie?
Regs, like shit, like brick weed that you would get. Like
I've heard of regs
like dirt
before.
weed.
Like the worst weed from like the 70s. Like
Weed
that
with
shitty
like the
weed.
weed that we would buy in Waterbury, Connecticut in the 90s that had oregano in it. You know, and it
You
was
just
like,
call it Reggie?
we never called
It's
it.
called
Reg.
Regs, regular, Reggie Bush. You can call
Reggie
it
Bush,
Yeah,
okay.
there's a bunch of names.
Reggie
Jackson.
Yeah.
Reggie Jackson.
I love that cat.
Yeah.
By the way, he missed me a lot. He slept under my chin.
Cat's gonna fucking murder you, bro.
Just like a python choking me. I love that guy so much. All right, you know those how it started, how it ended things that happen, Luke?
Sure.
Watch this guy at this wedding. This is how it started. That's aggressive. I believe that's vodka. Yeah, that's the lesson the kids out there.
I told this story before. There is a famous place in Colombia. Anyone who's been there, you've heard of it. They've opened up a version of it in Miami, but it's a bullshit version. It's called Andrés de Carne de Res. Andres for short. Andres.
Yeah.
It's this most incredible thing. It's like a steampunk restaurant that does like anything you could imagine, right? Like it's just ridiculous. And I was in line for the bathroom when it was closing. This is the real one for folks who know. This is not the one in Bogota. This is the one in Chia. Very different. That's the original one. And I was in line for the bathroom as it was closing, and there was all these Brits that were in line with me. And this guy took a bottle of aguardiente. Dude, this is like taking tequila. Like that's how strong it is. And I'll never fucking forget this. He was already shithoused. He cracks this motherfucker and goes to the face with it. We're talking like a liter of this fucking thing. Dude, if he lived to make it home, I would be shocked. I'm talking alcohol poisoning on the best of circumstances.
Dude, I went to Jamaica in 2003, and in the lobby bar after midnight one night, two armed forces gentlemen challenged each other to a vodka shot.
Oh, my God.
Whatever you call it. They were already drunk. They got up to 18 shots. And on the 18th one, this guy did the shot, celebrated, and then fell face forward and hit his face on the bar and was out cold.
Dude. Oh, my God.
I'm like, what do you win if you win that? The worst hangover ever. And alcohol poisoning.
Your IQ lowered by 15
Can you imagine
points.
drinking that much? I mean, because it takes you 55 beers to get drunk, but only 3 margaritas, folks. Okay.
Hey, listen, at my peak, I could drink.
All right, let's head
Now I'm
over to the
pathetic.
barber shop here.
You can't drink for shit either.
I never said I could. All right. Luke, what do you think of this little
I mean, just
creation?
where is the drive-by shooter when you need one? I mean, what are we doing?
Okay, you can rate that tat or haircut. Your choice. Luke, this next barbershop creation gives new meaning to the term dickhead. I don't know if this is a prank
They did, as the kids say online, they did unk dirty.
They definitely did. Have you ever heard of a drive-through barber? That's a decent idea, right?
Not heard of this.
All right. Okay.
What the fuck is the story there?
I don't know, but that's intense right there. You know Shawn Michaels' finishing move in WWE, the sweet chin music?
You kicked him in the face?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This one's called Sweet Kid music. Oh boy, that's I'll give that one 5 big booms, right? Wow, yeah, that is good stuff right there. All right, let's hit to the basketball court. Somebody tell the janitor we got a live game going on here.
What the fuck? What is he doing?
You know, bringing one of the benches across the floor in the middle of a game. Not a problem. Not a problem there, Mr. You know, good old. That's great stuff. Hey, it's time for a new segment. It's called Hats of the Week, Luke.
Old coochie is better than no coochie.
That's wisdom.
Words to live by.
That is wisdom. Let's keep it going.
Less nagging, more gagging.
And here's our producer, Matt's favorite person in the world.
Luigi Mangione. Yeah. Oh, shit.
They've made this guy into a hero.
They
Luke,
really
okay?
have.
And one more. Check out this old bastard. These are great hats.
Strip club veteran. Hell yeah, brother.
So you get mad at me for wearing my NWO wrestling T-shirt with the stars and stripes on the shoulders there. These colors don't bleed.
Yeah.
And this guy's got he's got military badges on a strip club hat.
They're called ribbons. Yeah. I mean, it's all pretty bad. It's just the difference is there's actually rules about flag code. There's ribbon code, but it's only for uniform personnel.
All right.
It's different.
Speaking of strippers, we would probably celebrate anyone on the show if they overcame drugs and turned their life around, right?
Sure.
Even
except Long Island, Luke.
Even strippers, right?
The reason why I'm so emotional, because this is my first time that I've ever performed without any cocaine, without any pill, without any ecstasy.
I mean, Luke, you got to give it up to her, right?
We can't even claim we done that on MK.
She kicked the habit. Now her career can really
now she's headed for the big time.
Take off like her clothing. All right. Luke, you remember those Jersey Shore people introduced us to GTL?
Mm-hmm.
I think that stood for
Gym Tan Laundry.
Gym Fight Sleep. Let's watch this. Watch the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, the guy doing curls and mean mugging everybody?
Yep.
With his belt on. Why are you doing curls with your belt on, you fucking puss?
Well,
take him off.
He's talking trash to this dude sitting next to him.
What happened here? Are they pushing and shoving? Oh, he fucking triangled him.
Yep.
Good. That guy looked like a dumbass.
Tap or nap, bitch.
Let me just say this. If you're walking around the gym with a belt and you're doing hammer curls, you're a bitch.
That guy got the hell out of there.
You're
wow.
a bitch.
Wow. All right. A couple more for you, Luke. Here's your T-shirt of the week. You may see this at the Super Bowl.
Taylor Swift swallows. Well, you know what? She's not my type, BC, but that might make her one. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. One more for you, Luke. Do you ever dress up? I mean, I hate to bring this up after R.I.P. Barbas, but were you big on dressing up the animals and clothes?
Maybe on Christmas or something like
yeah,
that.
because my dog Molly loves wearing outfits, hats, sunglasses, the big brown German Shepherd. Check out this dog dressing up.
Bagel, is that a note in your pocket? Oh my God, what does it say? What the fuck?
What does it say?
They just hit the second tower. That's the shit of the week, Luke. Hope you saw it. All right, that's all we got.
We're fresh off of BBC. Jesus Christ, we're fresh off of BC having the call of his life.
Yes.
Right? I'm like, he should get this gig more consistently. And the first thing he does when he gets back on the air is tell 9/11 jokes. Yeah.
All right, that's all we got. I'm going to pee my pants, but folks, we would like you to remember morningkombat@gmail.com to reach the show. Like and subscribe. Help us continue to build what we're doing here, including our YouTube channels, which are like compliments of what we do. And don't forget, this Friday in the normal episode slot, 11 a.m. Eastern, in this studio, It's Chuck Mindenhall returning with the boys.
Yeah.
To hit us with a pregame preview, UFC 312 edition, brought to you by Cuervo.
Our friends at Cuervo, for sure.
Shout out to our new sponsor, Luke.
Goldbelly.
Yes, goldbelly.com/combat with a K.
Well, Combat used the code.
With to get 20% off there. And man, those trash can nachos, baby.
And
Woo.
DraftKings.
What about DraftKings?
DraftKings, that's where a great place to do phenomenal sports betting. The crown is yours.
There it is, right there. All right. Long Island Luke, thank you for your service in the show today.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
You'll be here Friday, right?
Yep, looking forward to it.
All right. Hopefully we'll hear from your dad, maybe, because it's the card's in Australia.
I actually told him that yesterday. I saw him this weekend, and he had zero interest.
Your dad is from where in Australia?
Melbourne.
Yeah.
Melbourne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For Ken, our sound guy, we love Ken, right?
When he's sober, which is rare.
Shout out to everybody, Nadir, everybody working on the show.
By the way,
and
Nadir,
shout out.
and this is a true story, would not stop farting in the elevator. We had to have an intervention. We're like, Nadir, please stop farting in the elevator.
So the non-shitting bathroom, which is still out of order.
Yeah.
And, anytime an executive around here is like, you guys got a hunch. And I'm like, Luke Thomas, you think it could be Nadir?
Could it be Nadir? Nadir was daring me. He was like, would you go take a dump in the sink? And I'm like, Nadir, this is not appropriate conversation.
Mr. Schaub, please. All right. Worst pain of everyone's life. All right. That's it. We can't do it anymore. Thanks so much, guys. We'll be back on Friday. Check us out this week on our own channels. And take care of yourselves. Peace. We out of here.